A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Josh Badman of Radon Fighters. He can be reached at 217-823-9536. This is a great guy. He's my fellow firefighter. Use post-game spread as a code to save $25 on a radon inspection. If you're buying a home or just want peace of mind for radon in your house, please give Josh a call. He was a standout player at Morrisonville back in the day and then played at SCI for Coach Tor in the early 2000s. Go see Radon Fighters. We are also brought to you by Cornerstone Financial Services, specifically the founder and my buddy, Ryan Kaiser. We were part of the Dance Dads together. We met while our daughters were doing ballet. Love this guy. They're a huge baseball family. His son plays for the Arsenal. They're doing a baseball stadium tour. You can get a hold of Ryan he specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and is a certified financial planner. Love this guy. Go support them. Appreciate you. Spitty.
Yo.
What's going on, brother? How are you doing?
Great. I've heard a lot of good things about this podcast, so I'm anxious to get going again.
I'm pumped too, man. The feedback has been really cool to hear. I know that there's been a lot of love being passed around since the podcast. I know Brad Savota's reached out to Dennis, and your parents and the Worths have been going back and forth and kind of spreading the love around. I know Dennis Worth loved it. He listened to it twice. Kim Worth has been raving to me about it, and I've gotten talked to Feldy. He loved it. All these guys are loving it. So are you hearing good things back your way as well?
Yeah. Feldy reached out. I had a couple other friends reach out. Just it was like bringing back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
How much they appreciate me. Just all around good. Texts and messages and stuff, and it's just means a lot to me because I want to get that word out more and more. So
yeah. Awesome. I love that you're getting a bunch of positive feedback. It's been so fun, kind of bringing people back together, like you said. Talking about names, bringing up people, and you check in with them. You get to hear from them. Feldy. So I was talking with Feldy after our first podcast, and he didn't name it, but he said that we were kind of laughing about how long the first part went. And he was like, man, Jay's trying to turn this into his own The Last Dance documentary. So we were laughing about that. And I was like, you know what? That is the exact perfect title for part 2. Last Dance. It's amazing, dude. You know what? I don't care at all how long the first one went. Your story unfolds as it's supposed to unfold. If you are a baseball fan, then you should understand patience and waiting for the art, for the beauty of it. So let's let it rip, man. That was so fun.
And I'm not writing a book about Feldy and a tell-all. I'm up, and I thought Adam was really not that good of a pitcher and all that stuff like Pippen did to Jordan. So don't worry about that, Feldy.
No, I've yet to ask a guest this. Did you have fun in part 1? What was that like for you doing, spilling your whole story and going back?
It's all new. It was, like I've told the stories over and over again throughout the years, but this time it was all in one, bit. And so that made it a little more difficult. There's a lot of things that pop into your head that you want to, there's stories upon stories upon stories, You don't
want to miss a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, everyone, I appreciate everyone in the story, even if I don't, mention their name. There's no personal ill will towards anyone because everyone that was part of it, I appreciate, what happened and where it put me and, in that time and place. And, timing's huge and
absolutely
everyone involved. I don't want to ever miss a name, but, you know who you are. I can't thank you enough. So
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think, sometimes it does take a village. And I think something that was, so it screamed throughout the whole part 1 was how important the Worth family coming into your life was. And like, man, like all those 3 had like a role in like growing you up in some
Yeah.
ways, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and they opened up doors that I never thought were possible, just in many different ways too. And then another person I should mention while we're on that subject though is my mom. You know, my dad is obviously a huge part of baseball, but my mom was holding the fort down every time my dad and I went on that road trip to see this college or that college or go on a baseball trip of whatever. And my mom was sewing her ass off, you know, for the business and keeping a roof over our head. And same with my dad, but my mom, you know, just really, she should never go unnoticed. Yeah, she was a huge part of this story too. You know, my brother would attest to that as well. The impact she had. So wouldn't it be without her, it wouldn't have happened too. So just had to say that.
I love that you went back, and I'm going to actually take this time to go back and thank my mom too, because when I told my story on a buddy's podcast, I kind of didn't say a whole lot about my mom, and I regretted it looking back. It's easy to think, you know, when I think baseball, I think like my dad, but my mom played a huge role as well. She's an amazing lady. I'm so much like her. One of my best friends at this day. So love you, Mom. Sorry for not talking about you much in my own.
Love you, Mom. Yep. Yeah. So mom would just, you know, she did everything and then some to make sure we had what we wanted and needed. I mean, it was above and beyond.
Yeah.
And it was also the time and effort putting up with us playing baseball all the time. You know, it was just or nonstop sports. She never hesitated to attend, or, you know, she was all in. She total boy mom, you know, just like my beautiful wife. She's a boy mom with we got two beautiful boys at home. And yeah, so it was just all boys all the time, you know, in and out of the house playing baseball. So yeah, hats off to her. And she also had that seamstress title and rocked all those uniforms over the years for even some amazing colleges. I think even Wichita State might have been one of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, I mean, there were some accounts that she had that were pretty amazing, and it was all out of the basement of our house.
That's really cool. Shout out to Mama.
Yep. So we left off last time in '96, and I had just thrown my one hitter, and
I want to pause though, Jay.
Go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're good. That's exactly where we left off. But I want to start off funny because I kind of missed a funny clip. I missed a chance to play it, and I'd like to go back and just hit it right now, and then we'll move forward with that. But it's actually Coach Moomey, and I have it titled "Lonely Bus Ride." So I think you already know what story this is, right?
This. Absolutely. Let's do it. Yep.
And then hopefully you can give us some context afterwards. But hilarious. All right, here we go.
Well, it's one that Jay actually told me, and I remember it a little bit, but it was I think it might have been his 6th grade year. I used to let the kids, always let the kids ride home with their parents after the game instead of riding the bus if they wanted to. And I think we were playing just at Pawnee, just down the road in junior high, and I think every kid on the bus rode home with their parents except Jay. Jay rode home on the bus. And he came up and started talking to me, and he said I basically just kind of blew him off. And I know what I was doing. I was always reading, I always go over the scorebook on the way home and kind of copy it over to make sure we had it, if we called the paper or whatever, and make sure everything was right. But he kind of said he came up to the front of the bus and try to start a conversation, and I didn't really seem to want to talk too much. He said he just kind of put his head down and rode quietly the rest of the way home, and even reminded me of it several times later. But like,
Jay, what do you got to say about that?
Best story ever. Yeah, I was. We're at Pawnee. It was after a regional game or something, and my dad goes, "Hey Jay, do you want to ride home on the bus?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I thought that there was going to be a few teammates hopping on, and I was going to hang out with them. And next thing you know, it's just me and Moomey. And you know, I just really couldn't talk to Moomey much back then. I was shy, I was like nervous and shy in my own head.
Sure.
So I just sat there looking out the window all the way home, that half-hour bus ride or whatever. And I think the whole time I'm looking out the window, I'm going, what in the hell should I talk to Coach Mooney about? So then I finally came up to him right before we pulled up to the school. And I go, hey, Coach. And he's like, yeah. And I go, hey, do you think I'm going to pitch next year? And he goes, yep. And turned around, and that was it. Yeah, so that was really awkward. And one of many awkward moments with Coach Mooney. So it was just, yeah, I love it. I love telling that story. I remind him of it. It's just hilarious because
you guys have gone on to have a good friendship, right?
Yeah, we've become really good friends, and yeah, it's just hilarious though. So I'm glad you brought that up.
All right, man. Let's circle back. We're back to that junior year. We're basically at the end of your junior year here. Let's roll, man. Just rip.
Yeah. So we just got we won the semifinal on the way to the state championship game in '96. Greatest game I ever pitched. A one-hit shutout. Almost a perfect game. Had the press conference. I am a big crybaby, so I definitely was crying, hugging my brother, just overwhelmed with
feeling emotional.
Oh my God, just the most meaningful thing I could ever accomplish in my life.
Yeah.
And so we had a few hours to kill till the next game, which was the championship game. And I really didn't have much of a chance to celebrate that victory because we had to go right back into play the championship game. And I had a feeling that I was going to have to come in relief. It wasn't like me to do anything like this because, as I mentioned before, I was a one and done kind of pitcher.
Right.
I'd throw a game and I'd have my few days off or whatever. So after this game, I had to kind of keep loose and not let, just mentally not shut down.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Scott Metz started the game. He was a sophomore on that team.
How many pitches did you throw in that first game?
That first game, I threw about 86 pitches, I believe.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, so that was good. It wasn't a laboring,
right. It wasn't
effort.
120 pitch,
right.
outing or anything.
So that helped. That helped. And the maximum amount of innings you could pitch in the state tournament at that time was 9 innings, I believe.
Okay.
So Adam had pitched 7 innings the day before in his game. I pitched 7 innings that day, and so Mumi was hoping or was going to need Adam and myself for 2 innings if possible that championship game. So Scott Metz, our sophomore, he started. He was like our number 3 pitcher all year.
Yeah.
And he held the fort down. He held his own. And I think we were tied 4-4 or something. Maybe we had the lead 4-3. I can't remember, but I know I came in the fourth and fifth inning and walked a guy, gave up a hit, and I ended up giving up a run, but only gave up 1 run in 2 innings, struck out a few more guys, and actually before I came out of the game in my 2 innings, we came back and took the lead 6-4 or something like that. I can't remember. It's on YouTube, but and then it worked out so perfectly. Adam came in the last 2 innings to close out the game, and we won 7-5. So it was really fitting. Yep. It was really fitting that I pitched and then Adam came in to close it out to win our first ever state championship.
Yeah. What was that moment like? What would that feel like?
Well, during the game, it didn't really sink in that we could be state champs. It was just like the biggest obstacle. It felt like you know, if it felt like almost impossible, you know, could we really do this? I was still kind of, you know, still thinking about the semifinals, and it was just really weird. You know, it was just the whole experience. You know, it was just such a blur.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, mentally and but as the game, you know, went on, and you know, I know Wabansie Valley, you know, they booted the ball around a little too much that game. I think they committed 5 errors or something. We capitalized. We had timely hits. We were kind of running out of gas at this point, I think, in because we came out smoking in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
But we finally just ran out of gas and hung on barely. And Adam and I, speaking of running out of gas, I had thrown those 7 innings earlier in the day. My arm was completely dead.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how I was able to muster up 2 decent innings like that. And then Adam, I remember him telling me how rough his outing was from a pain standpoint.
Yeah.
His arm was hanging. It was just rough. And you could kind of tell in the video, Adam wasn't himself really. He was just kind of, you know, hoping and stuff. But, you know, all that experience carried us. And our defense, you know, we came through and made a great double play at the end with Craig Moreland.
Yep.
And it was on graduation night that night for the seniors. So they missed their graduation. But it was worth it, obviously. And it was just, you can't even put it in words. It was obviously just an out of body experience. But if you want to, I mean, that was an out of body experience. That was a moment you never forget. But then all of a sudden, my name gets announced to be the most valuable player.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I was named the most valuable player of the state tournament. I was 2-0 with basically 1 run allowed, I think, or you know, and 12 strikeouts, 9 innings pitched. And just a couple hits and a walk or something like that. So I was named MVP, and that was like another holy crap moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was just piling on. I just couldn't even believe what was happening, you know. And then Worth had a really good state tournament, and it looked like he was destined for greater things, you know, to come. And we just celebrated like crazy, you know, and had a big parade. And I even had to provide an awesome, overwhelming speech for everybody at the big field house.
Really?
I got on the mic and I go, and of course I started crying, and I go, Adam Feld is the greatest pitcher of all time, and Coach Ruby is the greatest coach of all time, or something like that. I'm like, and Jason Worth is the greatest player of all time. Yeah, that was my speech. Just bawling my eyes out. I'm like, yeah. I think I got made fun of on the radio about that or something one time, but yeah.
You got a sweetheart, buddy.
Yeah, it's this drama. It's just it's like everything is just oh my god, you know. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah, especially when it comes to baseball, you know. But so then my life is really just turned upside down once again, because now I'm getting some communication from Dennis and or some phone calls from scouts inviting me to this and that, you know, camp that they're having in the area throughout the summer. So they're wanting to get to know me. We went to Decatur one time, me, Craig Moreland, Adam Feld, and Worth, I believe. We took a trip to Decatur one weekday afternoon after our senior year, after our junior year, and we did this tryout camp with the White Sox, or I'm not sure what team was running it, maybe the Braves, and the scouts came up to me and they're like, "Hey, great tournament! Wow, you really were something special there, and you were clocked at 84 miles per hour." And I'm like, "Wow, really?" And I had no idea. And that was pretty awesome to hear, because one thing about being a lefty and being a curveballer, and a soft tosser is you're never going to throw hard enough.
Right.
So during that time is when I really started to to realize how important and how big of a deal it was to throw harder.
Yeah.
So it started becoming an obsession for me eventually, because I could never throw harder.
Yeah.
And so that's another topic, but so he brought it to my attention. The problem with going to these tryout camps and throwing in front of the gun and stuff like that, I would get up there and I'm 2 weeks removed from the state championship game.
Right.
And my arm was just dead and I did not feel right at all. And I just think I needed a break. And every time I would go to these camps, I really couldn't get loose. In my bullpen session, I'd be throwing 75 to 78 miles per hour. And a lot of these scouts were there, to watch me. They'd be like kind of disappointed in a way.
Sure.
And I was okay with it because I knew I had, one more full year to go and develop.
Yeah.
And I was going to figure this out. So I took a few more weeks off, and then I went to a tournament or two with the Thunder, and this was the last of the Thunder tournaments, and that's when we picked up like Dennis Tankersley and Steve Collier from St. Louis.
How big are you at this point? Height, weight?
I'm probably 5'10", 5'9", 165.
Okay.
170.
What did you get to? Or did you grow any more? Or is that?
Yeah. I was, well, I made it to 5'10", and I was like 185.
Okay.
So that was about it. So I was pretty much peaking physically.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at this time, I could have used definitely a few more inches of height.
Yeah.
But that's another part of the story is the how I learned how to tooth and nail through this whole thing.
Yeah.
So after Thunder ended, or while Thunder was winding down and we were losing in the World Series, and this was like our last hurrah, I threw one last World Series victory, a 6-0 shutout against the team. It was a definite memorable game. My last game ever for Dennis. Last game ever for the Thunder. I was on fire. It was like a great way to end my career with the Thunder because I went out on top, I felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still, even though I was having arm trouble over that summer because of the state tournament and taxing my arm so much, I felt like I was getting stronger, and the rest was helping me.
Okay.
In my last game, threw a shutout. It was awesome. And then the season ended, and while the season was ending, I was really focusing on rededicating myself to fitness.
Okay.
And getting ready for my senior year.
So what all does that entail for you at this point?
Well, what that entailed for me was everything I took from Kim Worth,
mm-hmm.
and I basically multiplied it by 10. And so I would hang out with her and do some running and all that stuff. But what I would do is, I started running just on a regular basis, like 3 miles, 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not have been the right thing to do from a baseball standpoint, but I just did what I thought I knew was right. And I know
at the time that kind of was how things were. It was long distance for pitchers,
Yeah, and unfortunately, for a long time, or all the stuff that you learn over the years, obviously you wish you could do something different.
Sure.
Because of what you know now, but that whatever. I did what I thought I had to do. So
absolutely,
I ran long distance 3 times a week. I was hitting the weights as much as I could. I had at the beginning of my senior year, I had this special PE class that Coach Moomy ran, and it was just for like seniors to get a PE class in, and it was more or less just walking around the track and getting your credits.
Yeah.
and just kind of a blow off PE.
Yeah.
So that you can get out of school early,
mm-hmm.
Instead of not having that early bird class that happens before school, and then you take it, and then you can get out early, and if you don't, you get out at the regular time. But so I did that class for a few days or so, and I found out that there was this other early bird PE class there that I could take instead. And this one was the football early bird PE class, where all the football players would attend,
banging some weights around,
doing, plyometrics, speed stuff. And this was 5 days a week, same time. I'd still get out early from school.
Oh yeah.
And so I went up to Coach Moo and I said, I'm switching classes. I can't be in this class. I'm going to take advantage of this and get my ass in shape. And he loved it. He thought it was brilliant,
Cool. Yeah.
So that's when I really learned how to lift weights. Just by getting in there and learning and trying new stuff. And even though it was like a football type of, atmosphere and environment, I thought it was perfect for my mental, just my attitude and my approach and my aggressiveness and that kind of thing. It really got me excited about lifting weights and getting fit for my upcoming baseball season. So I took that whole winter and did that.
Okay.
So during that winter, Dennis Worth knew of a pitching instructor in St. Louis.
Here we are. Yeah.
Nice. Jerry Daniels.
Yep.
And Dennis said that Jerry, knows, they know each other from the past. Jerry was a minor league Cardinal pitcher. He was a lefty. I'm not sure exactly where he was from, but I think from the St. Louis area. And he had this baseball facility in the suburbs. And he got me and a couple guys down there, Dennis did, to get some lessons from Jerry.
This is your new curveball time, right?
Yeah. So I had this, I had a slider and a curveball growing up. Yeah. So I had one where I would roll. It would be the slow humpback curveball, where I would roll it over, and it would be a big looping, nasty breaking curveball, slow one. And then I would have the slider, where I would throw it like a football almost or something, and it would just dart right down towards the right-handed batter's feet.
Yeah.
So I had a really hard breaking ball, and then that slow bender.
Both pretty effective?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, because what I did so well was, to a right-handed batter, I would just extend my arm just a little bit higher on that release of the curveball, and I would get them looking every time. They would buckle. They would see that curveball up in the zone.
Yeah.
And
like a big Barry Zito curve, like one of those big
ones?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. Like it would just drop right in for a strike, and they would give up on it. And they couldn't get back on it in time. They would already give up.
Yeah.
And then I could throw that down in the zone and get them to swing over it or a ground ball, or I would just throw my hard slider, which was basically a hard curveball. I would throw it as hard as I possibly could, right down the middle, and it would hit the dirt right under their bat.
Yeah.
Right near the right-handed batter's feet.
Yeah.
And I got so good at that. If I ever threw a strike with my fastball or got a foul ball with my fastball, even though I didn't throw that hard, you were dead meat with that curveball slider combination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I had that going for me all these years until I met Jerry Daniels, and he taught me a couple of cool, mechanical things that would help me increase velocity.
Love to hear him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would lift my leg up and kind of, bend. I would kind of turn at my hips, and I'd kind of get my hips pointed more towards the plate.
Okay.
Or at least my front hip. I'd kind of roll it, and then that would generate some more power through my hips and my shoulders.
Okay.
So he had me work on that. So there's just a little addition to my already decent mechanics.
Yeah.
So we worked on that, and then we worked a lot on the follow through and helping me be able to finish every pitch. with a lot of bend and a lot of downward angle, which, really helped a lot too. And then last but not least was obviously the curveball. So my curveball was like, I would kind of turn my hand a little bit early, like past, like when I was coming by my ear on the way to the plate with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I would turn my hand, and as long as I was going really fast doing that, I could get away with it. Well, Jerry had me throw more like a fastball, and then turn it just a little bit later, but not like a slider, which is much later. But this is just a little bit later and more out in front.
What was his thought process for that?
Just a nastier, harder bite.
Sharper, yeah.
Yeah. And what happened was it became a major league curveball.
There you go. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I practiced this throughout the winter.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, I can't believe what I'm throwing here. And then before the season started in the spring of '97, I was at this showcase, and there were some scouts. This is at Jerry Daniels' place in St. Louis. There were some scouts there to watch.
Mm-hmm.
There was also some college coaches there, which by this time I'm really interested in going to junior college. Okay. So that was another big part of this journey, was my journey to find the junior college that I wanted to go to.
Sure.
So we went to this showcase, and Steve Collier's throwing 90 miles per hour, and he's getting all this attention. And I get up there, and I'm grunting, which is another funny thing about me, is like I wanted to throw harder, so I thought grunting would help me, so I grunted a lot. Yeah. And so I get up there, and I hit 80 miles per hour, 81, I think, with a nasty curveball. And it was just basically a bullpen in front of a bunch of kids and scouts or whatever. And, I felt really good that I hit 80, because I wanted to, I didn't think I was going to hit 90. But, if I was throwing 84 in the state championship game the year before, I'm thinking 85 and up, at this point in my mind.
Yeah.
So before the season happened in '97, while all this other, pitching lessons with Jerry Daniels and refining my mechanics and things like that, I was also searching for a junior college that I wanted to play for. My grades were not that good at all. That's definitely one regret I have, is that I didn't take school more seriously, but it is what it is. And at the time, I knew I was just going to go to a junior college, but because of what I had accomplished from a baseball standpoint, I wanted to go somewhere far away, and I wanted to go somewhere big time. Sure. Even though it was a junior college, no offense to anyone out there, but I just did not want to go to Lincoln Land. Mm-hmm. Now, after it was all said and done, it's kind of funny that I probably should have chosen to go to Lincoln Land in the first place, because look at Lincoln Land, look at their whole body of work, look at their history. You cannot, you can't go wrong with Lincoln Land.
Thank you for circling back to that. I appreciate you.
Yeah, because because at the time, so here's what was clouding my judgment with Lincoln Land.
But
it was too local. It was Springfield. Sure. Yeah. And I was I wanted to get out there and see what else was out there, even though the grass probably wasn't greener.
Right.
But I wanted to make a name for myself and go somewhere, because here's why. Yeah, Lincoln Land was too local. I wanted to leave. My brother went to Lincoln Land.
Okay.
A lot of other dudes went to Lincoln Land.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know I could go to Lincoln Land. I even got a letter or a Christmas card from Riggle, I believe, Bull, or Coach Krasik.
Yep.
I knew it was there if I wanted it, but I was thinking, I want to go somewhere a lot awesomer, or whatever. I mean, again, I probably should have went to Lincoln Land, but
Well, everyone grows up
Yeah.
being like, I want to go away to play baseball, or I want to go south. But like, if Lincoln
Yeah.
Land's credentials are like in Mississippi, you'd be like, yeah, I'm going there. That place is
Exactly.
amazing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Poor Lincoln Land, because I really should have just went to Lincoln Land, you know. And
Yeah.
it's funny thinking that, but so I found out about Middle Georgia College. I
Oh
believe
yeah,
that.
very strong program.
Yeah,
Very.
I believe Dennis knew somebody out there.
They crank out
and
pros. Yeah.
yeah, and someone else knew the coach there, and
Yeah.
I don't know, but I found
And
out about them, and so I was able to get them to have me come out there on a visit.
okay.
So my dad and we drove out there in late February of '97, and they had a game that day. You know, it's like a 13-hour drive.
Yeah.
You know, so we drove overnight or whatever. Right like hours before the game, we arrive at the park. He has me throw a bullpen session. And the problem with me throwing bullpen sessions is just that you're never going to see anything special. I'm not going to throw hard.
Yeah.
My
Right.
curveball may be average looking when I throw in a bullpen. You have to see me in the state championships.
In the game. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that was kind of tough to deal with, but but whatever. I just went out there and just did what I do. And so the coach, I got to know him. He took us around campus. I got to know some players. I'm like, yeah, I really want to go here. Again, but it was nothing. It was honestly no different than Lincoln Land.
Yeah.
But it was awesome, and I really wanted to go there. And we found out about Meridian, Mississippi.
Okay.
And they had an amazing baseball program, top notch, Division
Yes.
I. My dad and I went down there because I think my brother was down there playing for Edwardsville when he was playing, and he was down in that area. And my parents happened to go by this college, and they looked at it and they said, "Oh wow, you gotta check this out." So, and they talked to the coach and stuff there, I guess, about me. So my dad said, "Let's go down there." So we took a trip down there. I threw a bullpen for them, and the guy was just standing there. And that was the one where Adam goes, "Yeah, whenever you're ready, Jay."
Yeah.
The conversation I had with this coach after my bullpen session was exactly this. He said, "We have the same shit you did," or he goes, "I know 3 other guys that have the same shit you do, but throw 85 miles per hour." So he basically said, "Yeah, good luck to you."
Kick rocks.
Yeah, yeah. So we went home, and yeah, it was a little discouraging, but whatever.
Yeah.
It was a nice campus. It was great and everything. And then the winter. Well, yeah. I mean, I think I went to Belleville one time. I went to Southern Illinois in Carbondale. And I just didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but I thought it'd be great to go to Middle Georgia College. But you know what? I never really got a call from those guys again, and they never really offered anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I didn't push enough or if they just weren't interested. I don't know, but I didn't really, so I just kind of set that to the side going into my senior year.
So you never committed anywhere?
I did after my senior year.
Okay.
Then that's coming up, which is really interesting too. But
we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. So I go into my senior year, and now I am beyond ready for this year, because I know that this is every single moment, every single pitch from here on out is going to determine my future.
Sure.
in baseball. So I was amped up. Every single pitch that I threw, it was nothing but everything and then some. It really was.
There we go. I love it.
Well, so like I would be at home watching Cardinal games, and Todd Stottlemyre was on the he was pitching for the Cardinals at the time.
Yeah.
And I watched him and his mannerisms and his attitude, and he just looked angry out there. And I realized that if I don't play the game, and if I don't pitch angry, I'm not going to be my best. Because I know that when I get angry, I am at my very best physically. You know,
what would you use to get yourself into an angry place? Any kind of motivation or thoughts? Or?
yeah. So the moment I would stand on that mound, and I remember just like yesterday, this is against Petersburg Porta, the first game of the year in '97. I'm standing on the mound and I pull that cap down, kind of like Andy Pettit.
There we go.
And all of a sudden, it's like something just triggers me, and I lose, and I turn off my humanity switch.
Ooh,
you like that?
Okay. Yeah.
That's from the Vampire Diaries. Don't tell anybody. Anyway,
you ruined it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so great. That's
I
so
turn
you,
my
buddy.
humanity.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So I would have my hat pulled down,
Vampire Diaries.
and I'd be breathing. I'd be huffing and puffing.
Okay.
Ready for that pitch.
Yeah.
You know, and everything that I worked so hard for, everything was into that one pitch. And that first game, I mowed like you wouldn't believe. I might have thrown a no-hitter or like a 5-inning no-hitter, or maybe I only threw 4 innings, but I think I struck out 11 batters.
Yeah.
My buddy Darren McMasters, a longtime friend, he was assistant coach with Glenwood, and he grew up like a big brother to me. We had a great time together, hanging out, watching baseball and stuff, and he would remind me like how many Ks I had during a game, or he would say to me, more Ks, and he would remind me, you know.
You certainly got a lot of them this year, bud.
Yeah, because you know, he realized how valuable strikeouts were, and then I started realizing it. And next thing you know, game 2, my
Spitty.
senior, yeah.
Let me pause you.
Yeah.
Let me get a little bit. Let me set the tone a little bit for you the senior year. I think this is really magical. I've got some quotes I'd love to get through a little bit before we just really get into your senior year. Is that cool with you?
Yes.
And I got a Dennis Worth clip, so I got another Dennis. Yeah,
Okay,
another
great.
Dennis. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a secret that you had an absolutely monster senior year. 1.28 ERA, 14 wins, 150 Ks, which was the Glenwood all-time single season K until like a year or two ago. One of the Detmers kids got you, I think, by a couple. You led the CSA in all pitching categories. I've got some Skippy Clayton quotes I want to get through. Skippy Clayton, of course, from the famous Clayton family. I'm talking Skippy, Billy, Marky, Jimmy. You know what that always makes me think of?
It wouldn't be Chatham baseball without those folks.
Them Clayton boys, man. They love some baseball, man. Whenever I say their names in order, it makes me think of that. Remember in like Good Will Hunting when he like talks about his brothers? He's like Mocky, Ricky, Danny, Terry, Mikey.
Yeah. How do you like them apples?
Yeah. Them Clayton boys, and Skippy could play it, boy. All right.
Oh yeah.
He said Jay was as good as it got in high school pitching. He got a front row seat to see all his strikeouts. He was a center fielder, but not a lot of balls hit my way. He absolutely dominated. Had complete command of his pitches. His secondary stuff was elite. His work ethic was top notch. When Jay took the mound, you knew complete dominance was about to happen. He was one of the good guys to the younger guys, and I thought that was cool. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes in baseball, like there is some ribbing up and gassing up the young guys. So good for you for.
Yeah, and I'm just too soft to be a tough guy. So I just embrace the softness and to the younger guys. And Skippy, I am not sorry that you didn't get any balls hit to you, buddy.
He said you were one of the good guys to the younger guys. Understood the game really well. Was always willing to teach and pass on. His mound presence, a complete bulldog. I can't tell you how many people said the word bulldog when they talked about you. Loved getting ahead in the count, could do whatever he wanted on the mound, made a lot of good hitters look foolish. We had a bunch of great athletes on that 96 team. Worth, Crawford, Feld, Downs, Ramsey, Moreland, etc. Jay always had a good time, but when it came to start, he flipped the switch, turned the switch on. It's crazy. Always a great teammate on and off the field, dominated his whole high school career. Every time he took the mound, you got his best. Jay was such a great player. Let me get through a couple of moomies here too.
Yeah, go ahead.
And like the obviously the legendary Coach Pat Moomey, 893 wins, 296 losses. Multiple state championships, 35 seasons. we just had that funny story about you in 6th grade. He said he had you from 6th grade. So he used to actually coach like the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teams in the fall, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Middle
he'd
school
get eyes on guys coming into the program.
It's great.
His mechanics were so good. He could go deep into pitch counts because his mechanics were so elite. Best game, he beat Moline in the 96 semifinal game. We talked about that. We had that funny clip about you guys walking and that guy kind of talking shit about you from the year before. And then you shove. Jay threw his slider down and into righties, just like we were talking about. It was devastating. He used to bury it. It was important to have a really good catcher to block it and throw him out. So obviously we know who your catcher was. No need to say his name. Jay had a lot of confidence to throw it in the dirt because of Jason. He would come inside with the fastball. His out pitch was his slider. Wasn't afraid to challenge guys. Wasn't afraid to buzz one, make guys, dance a little bit. A ton of composure. I put him in the state game because of that. Nothing fazed him after that tough outing his sophomore year. And that's cool. Yeah. Because you kind of talked about that being a turning point for you, being like, I'm never going to be like this again. Like, this is a turning point for me. So really cool to hear him echo that.
That's awesome.
Totally different person on the mound, would pull the cap over his nose, and it was time to go to work. He was a competitor. Said, I can't pass up this chance when you got drafted. I got to take this shot. I wouldn't be able to live with myself without it. There we go. And then I'm going to play one Dennis Worth clip for you. And I love the Dennis Worth stuff. And you said it perfectly in the first episode where you said he was a big leaguer with a big league personality. And I think that perfectly is Dennis Worth. Here we go.
Absolutely.
I mean, if people could see what I saw when he was 13 and then him being drafted at 18, they would hit themselves in the head. They go, no, there's no way this kid's going to get drafted. And like I said, a lot of pitching is in the legs, and my wife is the one that created his legs and got rid of all of his little belly fat. So and got him off the couch, playing video games and eating bonbons and all that bullshit. So
Dennis Worth.
That's hilarious. Yep. She paved the way. She taught me road work. Yeah. Olympic athlete. I mean, it's just and I love what Coach Mumi was saying. I appreciate that he appreciated me and was confident in giving me the ball. And it was great that he got to see me from 6th grade on. I mean, again, it's just another awesome story in my little story of baseball, and that's Coach Mumi's legendary status.
Yeah, what a legend. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And before we move on, I gotta say one thing, and you're gonna help me with this. Yep. I'm big into manifesting things and saying things out loud. I want to someday tell the Kim Worth story on here. I think it would be absolutely amazing. She's a little hesitant, so if anyone out there wants to give her some encouragement, go ahead and help me out a little bit. Kim Worth story. Yep.
Kimmer, do the Kim Worth story. I am waiting to be interviewed. Yep. Cat Daddy is going to be in the interview room waiting to be interviewed. Yep.
I promise you it would be epic. She's got such an amazing story. I would just love to tell it, man. I think so highly of that family, and one of the most athletic families of all time. She has her own athletic story, but then she raises arguably one of the most athletic families in American history.
Yeah, and overshadowed by her brother, her dad, and her son.
She's the real superstar, though. Yeah. All right.
I'm all for it.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. All right, senior year, game 2. Let's go.
Game 2, we played Athens. We played at Athens, and this is where some of my strikeout numbers got ridiculous. I was really on a roll. I was now starting to become obsessed with strikeouts because I started to really understand how to set up a batter.
Right.
And my control was better than ever. My velocity was harder than ever. Everything was coming together so well.
What do you feel like you were throwing at this time, velo-wise?
Probably 84, 85, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe higher, maybe a little lower, depending. But every single pitch, I was given my 150%. It was, I mean, I couldn't believe how much effort I was putting into every single pitch. I would throw harder and throw harder and throw harder. That was my mentality. And
were you a long toss guy at all? Is that something you subscribed to?
Yeah, I always threw long toss, once or twice a week or once between starts, that, or before a start, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so this game against Athens, I ended up striking out all 12 batters I faced. After the eighth strikeout in a row in the third inning, I had this batter 0-2, this left-handed batter.
Yeah.
The ninth batter in the lineup, going for my ninth strikeout in a row, and I throw a nasty curveball, and the kid ducks under it, and it bonks him on the head right down the middle, and he gets to take his base.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that would have been 9 in a row. Well, I ended up striking out 12 batters in 4 innings that game. And I also hit my only home run of the game.
You had a bomb?
Yep. The only home run I ever hit. It was funny because it was actually a fly ball down the left field line. I was a left-handed batter.
Oppo, huh?
Oppo. Yep. And I also had an RBI double that game. So I was 2 for 2 or something with 12 strikeouts in 4 innings.
Getting it done at the plate too, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you know what? I never really hit much, other than, Willie McGee stuff. So that was kind of a big deal for me.
Were you using your own stance?
Yes, I was, because I was serious mode, Yeah. Yeah. So then as the season went on, I actually lost a tough game against Griffin, my next outing. So I was already down 2-1.
Okay.
It was the coldest day ever.
Yeah. Central Illinois baseball can be pretty darn cold in the spring.
Could not get my feeling. We ended up losing 4-3 or something like that. It was just an uncharacteristic game for me, but Frank Stefano, I think, pitched against me, and
Frank the Tank. Love that guy.
I think he got the win.
Frank went on to play pro ball.
Yep. It was a huge win for them.
Yeah.
And that year we played the same team twice in the week, so Tuesday, Thursday.
Uh-huh.
So that next game was at Lanphier against Griffin.
That team would have probably had Ryan O'Malley too.
Ryan O'Malley, yeah. So we were down, I think, 9 runs in this game, and we were ready to lose two games in a row, both to Griffin.
Yeah.
And we have never lost 2 games in a row in the conference ever since the CS8 had been a conference.
Right.
We ended up Ryan O'Malley that game hit one of the furthest balls I've ever seen. It went over the scoreboard that night.
Oh, he could absolutely swing it, boy. He had thunder.
Holy.
Yeah.
That was a mammoth.
People forget. Yeah, people forget how deadly his bat was.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome because I had a great view of it from the first base dugout. But miraculously, we came back and won that game. It was like we were down, we were going to lose. We came back and won, and we just mowed through the conference the rest of the year. So I'm striking out a dozen batters a game for the next several games.
This would have been the year that I saw you. I remember I told you at the very start that you were one of my core memories, and I remember you just like dicing. I don't remember what team it was, but it seemingly you struck out every batter, and pretty much you had to do that pretty much every game.
Well, that's awesome because, I remember one game. It was against East Peoria. It was a Saturday doubleheader, and I had the first game of the doubleheader, and I struck out 16 batters. I was throwing about 86, 87 that day.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then probably my best performance of the year, 17 strikeouts at Taylorville. I struck out the first 10 batters of the game.
Wow. And
it was nothing but I was throwing heaters for strikes on the outside corner, and then I would throw that curveball or slider down in the dirt, and Worth would just dig it up and boom, boom. I mean, Now the funny thing about the 17 strikeouts at Taylorville and striking out the first 10 batters, was the very next pitch after my 10th strikeout in a row. The very next pitch, this kid pops up. He pops it up, and it goes over the right field fence at Taylorville.
Oh, that short porch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
real
it was
short.
just hilarious. It was hilarious because everyone thought no one was going to touch me.
Yeah.
And then the next pitch, this kid popped it up, and it was a home run. It was hilarious. It was actually
it can't be overstated how short that porch was. I don't know if it's still the same field or not. But I mean, it might be 220. I mean, it is short, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, but that's how funny it was. Like, I was striking out everybody, like it was nothing, and then this kid pops it up, and it was just But 17 was my career high. But all year, I struck out 14 against Springfield, 13 against Jacksonville. I struck out 11, I think, in a shutout at Lincoln.
Yeah.
Lincoln was always a tough team for us to beat. And that was Josh Komnick.
Yep.
And another couple really good players on that team. And I went to their ballpark and shut them out with like 11 Ks or so. Everywhere you looked, I'm striking out double-digit guys. And in between my starts, I would actually come to the ballpark. I would go to our baseball field about an hour before practice every day because I would get out early from school because I had that early bird class.
Right.
And I would just run for a half hour and do workouts up until practice started or before a game that I knew I wasn't going to play in. And
that's awesome.
Coach would just leave me alone. He would let me just do workouts and prep in between starts, and he would just let me not even practice if I didn't want to.
Really?
Yeah, it was that nice.
You're getting kind of treated like almost like a professional pitcher at this point.
Yeah.
As a high school senior.
Yeah, like I would sometimes, if the weather wasn't nice, I would just stay at home and run on my treadmill, and then I would show up to practice.
He trusted you to be on your own program, essentially.
Yeah.
That you were doing your work. Yeah.
And basically what I was doing was following Kim Worth's running program.
Yeah.
And I just kind of created my own, fitness type of routine. I was kind of like, I love being a starter. I love the routine of it all, like working out in between sessions and getting ready for my next start, which was just like, it was beyond important. It was like game day. It was like everything, because all I could think about was someone's going to see me and I'm going to go to a really awesome baseball school.
Really?
That was all that I was hoping for,
Yeah.
And also, obviously, you want to win, and you also had Jason Worth to watch every day. So during our senior year, aside from what I was accomplishing, I was seeing one of the best baseball seasons anyone could ever have.
That's the damn truth.
History,
the damn truth. Crazy. Absolutely bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason Worth, so in the summer of '96, before our senior year, he was going to this camp, this tryout camp and that tryout camp, taking batting practice, hitting balls to the warning track with a wooden bat, tall, skinny kid.
Yeah.
But, great catching mechanics, great pop time, played Pan Am games. Obviously they're looking at him hard.
Yeah, he's fast too. Great
really,
athlete.
Yeah. But like I had that humanity switch turned off in my senior year. This kid did so as well, but you add all of the genes and all of the athleticism and all the gifts that this kid had, and you add the hunger, the mental makeup, and you got yourself a kid hitting 600 his senior year.
Yeah, 17.
17 home runs and 40 some games.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
There were some games that there was one home run, Blake, where I saw this. We were tied in the last inning, and Jason came up. It was a Saturday doubleheader, and it was against Metamora, and Jason just basically willed the ball over the fence. It looked like he was out in front. It looked like he was just trying to pop the ball up and just place it over the fence. That's how on fire this dude was that year.
Place it over the fence.
There was other times when he looked like crap in a certain at bat, and then the next thing you know, he's hitting a line drive off the top of the right field fence.
Yeah.
One time at home against Rochester, just one of those non-conference weekday games that we ended up winning, but he just demolished this ball over the road behind the left field fence. I mean, it was video game. It was just it was a major leaguer against high schoolers. It was that much of a difference.
Yeah.
It was, and every time there was a base runner on and I'm holding the runner on, no one would run.
Right.
Everyone's thrown out. It was that much of a joke.
I know. I'm so glad you're talking about this, because I made a promise to myself before this podcast that I was not going to turn this into the Jason Worth story. Like, I obviously you guys are very intertwined.
Yeah, it has to be.
You guys are very intertwined, but I just didn't want to, like, personally be like, tell me about Jason Worth. Tell me about Jason Worth. So like, this is awesome that you're.
Yeah, if it wasn't for me, Worth wouldn't have made it to the majors. I mean, you know.
So thank you for bringing it up and it kind of organically happening. Obviously, it's a part of the story, and just witnessing that must have been like so incredible to see, like a first round talent.
And you know, we were seeing a lot of great things from him, bits and pieces in the previous years. I remember in basketball, our sophomore year, he was a starting point guard for our varsity basketball team.
Oh, yeah, he could dunk. He was dunking in spring.
He was phenomenal. Yeah, but he could dunk his sophomore year, but he couldn't dunk very often, or I think he was just starting to.
Okay.
And he, you know, we were playing Southeast, and this was at Glenwood, and we were coming back or barely hanging on to win, and it was this pandemonium there. And Worth got on the break, and I thought he was just gonna lay it up. And he went up for it and tried to dunk it, and he ended up missing. But everyone I think was shocked that he even tried.
Yeah.
And it was kind of stupid for him to try because it was very untimely to miss, because it was like, oh shit, you know, you needed to make that basket.
Yeah.
But the next season I saw him dunk in a game.
Oh, seriously though, he was dunking like a man.
And then his senior year, it was like showtime all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there were times when, well, we had a pretty good basketball team our senior year, and we did, you know, we won some games.
I used to go to those games. Yeah. I grew up. We're very close family friends with Griff Juergens, the Juergens family. So
cool.
I went to so many Glenwood sporting events. I'm wearing if you can see.
Yeah,
an old Glenwood Redskins shirt right now. Like Griff was my absolute idol growing up. So
oh my God,
I went to all these events, all these games. Like I was there.
Yeah, Griff was my idol too, and he was a sophomore and I was a senior. But yeah, he had an awesome garage and a basketball hoop in his garage.
Wasn't that amazing? What a setup he had. Yeah, football field in his backyard too.
Yeah, Kimmer and I would always run out towards his house.
Okay.
That was like kind of our route.
Right on.
Towards Griff's house. Yeah.
Know that facility well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
So Jason, he put on a show in basketball. I remember I was sitting with Kim at a game in let's see, it was at Lanphier or somewhere in the city, and there was Houston. There was two scouts from Houston, University of Houston, that were there to watch him play basketball.
Really?
Yeah. It was and it could have been maybe the baseball scouts were there to watch him play basketball, but they were the baseball scouts. But yeah, they were in attendance. You know, so just to give me an idea of what kind of exposure Jason had, even when he wasn't playing baseball, you know.
Yeah.
So our senior year, he's just dominating, you know, stolen bases, runs scored. No one can get him out. Moomy bats him leadoff because that was a way to get him in the lineup as many times as possible.
Yeah,
And here's another important thing. Moomy was afraid that they were going to try and walk him.
Yeah, pitch around him for sure.
So he hit him leadoff so that it would, if they wanted to walk him, they're walking the leadoff batter of the game.
Yeah.
Because it's automatic second and maybe a third steal third.
For sure.
But yeah, so this team of ours, our senior year, wasn't as strong as the 96 champs or the 95 state title game or team.
Yeah.
But we still won 30 games. I was 12-1 with my record and my strikeout record. We went into the playoffs.
Who was the typical starting nine?
Typical starting nine was Jason leading off, Downs hitting in the middle of the order, Scott Metz hitting pretty high in the lineup. Let me think. Chris Ross he was on our team the senior year.
Okay, yeah.
He was our right fielder. He came on. He was a freshman, and he came on during the later part of the year. He was on the 98 football team.
Yeah, he was their starting running back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Skippy, was he in center field?
Skippy was in center. Downs was in left. Matt Whalen was at first. Jordan Williams played second. Scott Metz played third, or Kyle Moomy played third.
Yeah.
And our shortstop was Griff. Yeah. So yeah, Griff was our shortstop. So yeah, we had a younger team, except for Whalen, Downs. Ryan Green was on our team. He's a athletic director, I think, for Chatham or for Riverton or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we still won 30 games. We got through the playoffs to the sectionals, and that's when the draft was coming up.
Yeah.
So after the first 2 games of the regional, there was one more game to win the regional championships to move on to the sectionals to eventually get to the state again. So I'm in the regional championship game against Quincy, and it's at Lanphier Ballpark. And this was the day before the draft. And I had been thinking about the draft, and I thought it would be awesome to be drafted, but I had no idea about ever being drafted or if that it would even be possible. So it never really crossed my mind.
So no scouts were telling you you're going to go in this round? Nothing like that? Okay.
Nope. All I knew was that the draft was coming up and that Worth was all the talk, and that was really exciting that we were getting ready for Jason to be drafted possibly in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we had this championship regional game to win first, and it was my game, and I went out there and I think we won 3-0. I struck out 9 batters. I remember one kid hit a laser towards the wall off of my slider. He was looking for my slider and absolutely crushed it. And Downs in left field did like a bump Bailey catch, like in
Nice
the
reference.
natural.
Nice reference.
Except Downs lived to tell about it. He caught the ball and basically ran right into the wall, and it was the greatest catch ever. And I waited for him to come out off the field. I waited for him on the field, and I gave him a big hug. And I'm like, "You saved my ass." But that was just another big moment that just solidified that season and my dominance, and luck.
Yeah.
Another big strikeout game. I was just on a tear.
So this new curveball was just dicing everyone up.
No one could touch it.
Yeah.
My control, I just on fire every game.
Yeah. Very confident.
Confident, but just never letting up. I remember.
There you go.
Just saying try harder, more effort.
Sure.
And that's how all those Ks racked up. It never really was, on purpose to break the record, but the record was only 100 strikeouts in a season held by Feld.
Really?
Yeah, and I ended up getting 150.
Yeah, you blew through that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a man possessed. I was just obsessed with striking out batters.
Yeah.
Or, getting outs, obviously, and winning games. But I was just really good at, throwing strikes and swinging and missing. I couldn't believe how it was just, I was in another world. I really was.
Pretty magical season for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so after we shook hands on the field after that regional championship game, and that was a big deal too, because we won yet another regional championships. Even if we weren't going to win the state or sectionals, and even if we weren't going to go to state and win state again, the fact that we won a conference again and we won a regional championship again was just another, awesome thing that we always overlooked, because we're always looking to go to the next level or the next round or whatever.
Sure.
Well, I remember coach coming up to me or telling our team, this means a lot, guys. No matter what happens from here on out, this is something to be proud of. We won yet another regional. Right. Look at all these teams we play. Look at all these good ball players. And then Mumi had a few last words for me out on the field before we walked off after that game, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, I don't know if you're going to get drafted tomorrow, but I really hope you do, and I really think you deserve it."
Oh, that's cool.
It was a really nice thing to say, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, I'm not really worried about it. Never, I'm just seriously not. Yeah,
Isn't that so?
Yeah.
You know what makes me laugh though is I'm thinking back to that, you being on the bus in 6th grade and asking him, "Coach, do you think I'm going to pitch next year?"
Yeah.
And here it is, like 6 years later, he's like, "I hope you get drafted."
Yeah, and then like and even and during those times, Mumi and I would go to Mumi's house and hang out with them and watch like NBA All-Star Game.
Yeah.
And other sporting events over at his house and talk, and we became good friends my senior year. So after that game, we go home, and the next day was draft day, and I was really excited, but the way I wanted to start my draft day, even though I had really no idea what was going to happen, and I was just like, really happy for Jason, and I'm really need to get ready for my next start. I went out for a run, because that's what I do the day after my start.
Had Jason already been drafted at this point?
No, not yet. No, it was. I got up early that morning, ran my 3 miles, and got ready for the draft party at Worth's house.
Right.
Worth lived just down the street from me, so I could just walk up and down the street. And so after I got done with my run, we go over to his house. Bunch of people arrive, and finally, some announcement came on. Some weak signal from the internet back in the day that was being carried by our school channel, our high school channel.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but it showed Jason's name and pick with the Orioles, and everyone just erupted, and Jason cried.
Yeah. That was
and
so
hugged,
cool.
Hugged his mom, and we all celebrated and hung out for a while. And then I decided to go home. Later on that day, a buddy came over, my friend Darren, and he's just a big baseball fan, and we're huge baseball fans. And we're talking about Jason and getting drafted and stuff. And then we didn't really have a computer over at my house at the time. But my neighbor, she did have a computer with the internet, the dial-up thing, and Darren suggested that we go over to her house and see if we can get online and see, the other draft picks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go over there, hang out, get on the computer, look at the 97 first round picks, and like JD Drew was on there, and whoever, whatever. But and we saw Jason on there, and then moments later, Barb Crawford, Mama Crawford, comes storming into the house, like bawling her eyes out. It was like someone had just died. Oh my God, the Oakland A's are on the phone. They want to draft you.
Wow.
So Darren and I look at each other like, holy shit. And we just jump out of our chairs and run over to the house. And so what happened was the party over at Worst's house moved over to the Crawford house.
Wow, that's cool.
So all of a sudden, now the problem with this was my draft selection wasn't quite official yet. Uh-huh. It was a call from the scout asking if I was signable, and would if we took Jay Crawford in the 16th round, is he signable? And my dad said yes. My dad took the call because I wasn't home.
Right.
So then Dan said that they'd call back after they make the selection or something. So basically the whole party we all just erupted, hanging out, just a great time. It was just unbelievable. All these people coming over and celebrating. And I called the coach from Middle Georgia. And I said, hey, coach, I'm still interested in playing for you, but I just want to let you know I just got drafted. And was like, holy cow, are you serious? Oh my God. And then I told him why. I told him how many strikeouts I had.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't believe it. And I said, I'll be in touch. And that was it. I never talked to him again, but I got some phone calls, from people, and I just couldn't even think straight anymore. I remember getting a phone call the next morning from a radio station, and I was still half asleep.
Yeah.
Asking me how it was going and all that stuff. And
did someone from Oakland call you and talk to you actually?
No, actually, I was gone. I was gone the next day, and they called and they talked to my parents again, and they said, you were drafted in the 24th round.
Okay. Wait, so you didn't even know it was officially the 24th round until the next day?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So that was kind of weird. I mean,
that's
I don't
crazy.
know. Yeah. So, that's how it happened. And then, so then the next several days were, just trying to let it sink in and try and figure out, wow, so I just got drafted, what now?
Yeah.
I still had to finish my high school year. We still had sectionals, and hopefully we'll make it to state.
Yeah.
But now I'm a draft pick, and I'm like, well, maybe I don't have to go to college.
Yeah.
And
this must feel so cool for you. I mean, it just 6 or 7 years before this, like we've talked about, you were kind of like.
Yeah. Okay. Say that again. 6.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. So I took a call, or someone tried to call me. I was just saying that it's crazy that, just 6 or 7 years before this, you're this kind of pudgy-ish, unathletic kid who forced himself into, better shape, who worked, who persevered, who soaked up all this knowledge around him. And now you're drafted. I love stories like this. This is why I'm so romantic about baseball, man. This is so cool.
Yeah. And you know what? And what's incredible about this is there is still, even though I had a short-lived baseball career, there is still so much more that I'm about to accomplish after this moment. But I didn't even know what the hell happened. And I'm like, wow, I can really possibly do this. Like, I can really become a Major League Baseball player. And so all this hard work went from hoping to go to a good junior college to pitch to possibly going to be a professional, baseball player.
Yeah. Man, and it's, I hope you take this the right way when I say this, but you were definitely in the right place at the right time too, right? Like being surrounded by, the Jason Worth kind of circus, and like, does the same thing happen to you if you do this at Southeast? I don't know.
Right. I mean, everything had to happen perfectly like that.
Yeah.
Worth had to move to Chatham. He had to block my sliders and curveballs. He had to hit home runs to help me win games.
Yeah.
Kim helped me become a better athlete. Dennis was a great coach. I mean, of course, I owe everything or a lot to the Worst and Jason, and I would not trade it for the world, because it was like baseball heaven.
Yeah.
And I was just a spillover, a positive spillover in all of it.
So dang cool, man.
I was just kind of taking advantage of everything.
Yes, you were. Yeah, absolutely.
This opportunity opened for me, but Dennis and Jason opened all these opportunities for me years ago, and all these tournaments, and Dennis saying stuff like, "Hey, a Marlins scout's here today." And I'm only 14, 15 years old pitching in a meaningless tournament game.
Right.
But when he said, "Hey, this Florida Marlins scout's there today," talking to someone and I'm overhearing it, that's like extra motivation, incentive.
Sure.
And coming from Dennis was such a big deal, and that influence,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I had at my fingertips, I had all these resources and all this network growing of connections, and look what I did with it.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
So what was this process now once you're drafted and you're still kind of trying to finish your senior year?
Yeah. So I had a couple of like parent brother meetings. I would have once in a while, I'd have a friend or two over, and and once in a while, like one time I had Coach Moomy over with my parents to talk about my decision, because I knew I was going to be faced with, whether going to college or going pro, based on like what kind of money they're going to offer me and what kind of college they're going to offer me.
Right.
All of this was really new to me. I didn't really know what a cash bonus was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what 4 years of school meant. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, but when you get drafted out of high school, or well, at all for that matter, at that time, Major League Baseball would offer a cash incentive to sign with them, and also, if necessary, they would offer scholarship money.
Right.
Sometimes the bigger draft picks would just get like all cash, and sometimes maybe a player would just get school money offered, but it'd be a lot of school money. So I really don't know. I mean, when I got to know other players with the A's after I signed, I learned what their cash bonuses were and all that stuff, because people would talk all the time about what they got. But
sure.
So I would talk to my coach, Moomy, and some friends about, what kind of decision I'm going to make and what to expect. And then my scout, Joe Robinson, at the time with the A's, he came over one night and talked about, the whole process and what they offer, and what it all means. And so he basically said, "This is what we'll offer you, and if you want to sign, you can report to Phoenix, Arizona, in 10 days or whatever."
Take it or leave it, huh?
So, yeah, I mean, it was like it was a long conversation. We had like a dinner and everything, but it wasn't just a hard offer. It was just like, "What do you think of this?" So he basically said, "We'll offer you $12,000 cash, and we'll give you 4 years of school at roughly $30,000.
Sold.
So if you want to do it, this is what's going to happen. You'll forfeit all of your college
Eligibility.
baseball eligibility.
Yep.
And you play pro, and you get a cash bonus, and you get 4 years of free school.
Yeah.
Or you just go to college and you take your chance, and we will follow you to college. When players like me got drafted back then, I don't know how it is now.
Draft and follow used to be a thing.
Yeah, draft and follow. So they said, wherever you sign in college, we'll still have our name tied to you as a draft selection.
Mm-hmm.
We'll follow you through college and watch you next year and see how you perform, and maybe sign you then.
Right.
Or you can get redrafted.
Right.
But I knew that it was a big risk if you go to college and don't take that chance of playing pro ball.
Yeah, sometimes you don't get that opportunity again.
Yeah.
Billy Clayton.
Right, yeah. And there's a lot of, it's not easy because you don't want to doubt yourself. You want to bet on yourself. Like I like those kinds of stories.
Sure.
But I'll tell you right now, no one was going to change my mind about playing professional baseball. I had my mind made up. This is what I absolutely wanted to do.
Hell yeah.
So whether I even deserve to get drafted or no matter what shit bonus I got or offer, my whole goal was just to get to pro ball. I just had to do it. It was, and a lot of people ask me all the time, do you regret not, taking your chances and going to college?
No way.
I totally understand why you would, but my thinking, my whole attitude towards it all was, I'm just not going to take any chances, and I just want to be a pro ball player.
Yeah, 100%.
Should I have gone to college? Probably, like hindsight, all that stuff. But should I have gone to Lincoln Land? Yes, I should have gone to Lincoln Land, based on everything we know. But I still don't regret my decision because I had to be a professional baseball player.
I think you did the right thing. No, I think you were in the right place at the right time. I think your whole story is all timing. You're right place, right time, and you're in the right place at the right time, and take advantage of this opportunity. I think it was a great decision.
Yep. So I talked to the scout. They anteed up a little bit more in the way of cash, and they offered me $15,000.
Okay.
And $32,000 for school. So basically $8,000 a year for school scholarship money.
Yeah.
If baseball doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go for it, and by June 30th, 1997, I am an Oakland A.
That is so cool, man.
Yep. So between deciding to go and signing was one thing, but I also got done with my senior year. We lost in the sectionals, but not before I won one more game in the sectional. The first game of the sectionals, I beat Morton.
Mm-hmm.
I had another 7 strikeouts. This was my first start after being drafted, and I was very messed up because of getting drafted.
Yeah, that would be a weird feeling.
Yeah, I was mentally like
checking out a little bit.
Yep. I was just so deflated or something. It was weird. But we got through it and we won, and that kind of solidified and stamped my entire season with one last victory. So I ended my my high school career with a 30-4 record.
Yeah.
That senior year, I struck out 150 batters in 90 innings. And I was just on another planet and heading to Phoenix, Arizona for rookie ball.
Oh man, exciting. Yeah. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, take us there.
So we went to Peoria, Illinois we met my scout at the Peoria Chiefs Stadium because he had to be somewhere and he was up north somewhere. So we met him there to sign the contract, and it was on the trunk of my parents' car. So we got all that paperwork done.
Yeah.
And a few days later, I flew out to Phoenix. I remember being at the airport. My dad, I'm pretty sure he ran away to go cry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
That's a big moment for a dad. I remember my dad cried when I went to my first spring training, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, huge moment.
Yeah.
So I flew out there, and I just, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I've never traveled before, other than for baseball, of course, but never like this.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody. So I arrived at Papago Park near the Phoenix Zoo. This is in South Scottsdale, Arizona, near Phoenix.
Yep.
This is where the A's minor league field was, or other fields, and it was just the best, absolute best spring training complex you could ever have.
Yeah.
And this was where Mark McGwire, made his name, Jose Canseco, all these guys hanging out at this complex. And I was at the end of the Bash Brothers era, because this was 97.
Yeah.
And McGwire was about to get traded to the Cardinals.
Okay.
So the A's are basically getting dismantled as we speak.
Right.
So as I arrive at Phoenix, they were already playing a game, and they played like 10 o'clock every morning during the season. So the rookie ball season was played at 10 o'clock, and before every game, there was a 2-hour practice that we would have, which included conditioning and batting practice.
Yeah.
So, I got
is that because it's so hot there?
Yes.
They do it so early? Yeah. So I ended up playing independent ball there, and we played night games, and it'd be like 110. It was crazy.
Yeah, we switched it up and played night games in the middle of the year. So, but our batting practice would be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's 110 degrees. So, I mean, it just didn't matter. It was just too hot all the time.
Yeah, it really was.
But I got acclimated just fine. I think a lot of dudes that I got to know and played with, a lot of them immediately liked me and rooted for me, because I was never an ego guy.
Right.
And I was kind of just soft and just nice, and when I pitched, everyone was rooting for me. They always wanted me to do good,
Yeah.
And I think it was part of, just because I didn't have much stuff either. Like, I did have a good curveball. I was a funky lefty, but I had nothing special,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was easy to root for me, I guess.
Now, were you seeing some guys there that did have some pretty special stuff?
Yeah, well, see, I almost look at my professional baseball experience as probably like a fantasy baseball experience, because even though I was playing tough, rookie ball games, and it was blistering heat, and it was miserable, and everyone would rather be home. I was like that too, but I was also like, oh my God, I am a pro ball player. This is the greatest life ever. And you never know who you're going to play against, and you never know who's going to walk through those doors and get to know you and talk to you. And so
what a great outlook, man. That's
beautiful. Yeah. So while it sucked playing in this heat and these games, I got to know, a few like former major leaguers. I got to meet like Mike Gallego.
Mm-hmm.
I got to meet Billy Bean.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, he just started his general manager tenure back then. So Moneyball was kind of like becoming a thing, like eventually. Yeah. So a lot of the kids that I played with in rookie ball, only maybe one or two ended up making the major leagues.
Right.
But I still am really good friends with some of the players on that team today. And what's funny too is when I started playing, when I signed that contract, flew out there, I had to find a place to live.
Okay.
And for some reason, I gravitated more towards the Dominican players.
Really?
Because I really liked the Spanish language and I really wanted to kind of learn it. And I kind of got stuck rooming with some Dominicans in their apartment complex, as opposed to like with some of the American kids, you know?
Yeah.
And they thought that was kind of strange.
Now,
I didn't really.
How well did they speak English?
Not very well at all. So it was really tough. Yeah. It was just me being stupid, you know, like I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to be positive. I was probably more shy of the American buddies because, you know, like I never felt like I was that tough and, you know, like
you're not a typical like baseball bro.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah. So I liked hanging out with the Dominicans and trying to learn Spanish, but I only lasted a few days doing that. And finally one of the coaches came by and took me. And he's like, you know, I think you want to go stay with these guys. And it wasn't like any hard feelings, you know, but it was just kind of like lonely, you know, like for a while I'm like, oh my God, they're watching the soap opera again. And I don't know Spanish.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is hilarious that you are in the United States.
Yeah.
Rooming with probably 3 or 4, you know, Hispanic guys that don't speak hardly any English. You're sitting there watching whatever it's like daytime Spanish television.
Yeah. Telemundo or something.
Telemundo, yeah.
So I hang out with them for a couple of days. Then I finally move into my American buddies.
There you go.
But you know what's nice though is I'm still friends with some of those Dominicans on Facebook.
That's cool.
I always had a girlfriend, or I was always in love during my baseball years. Like during my time, I always had a girlfriend or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'd be on the phone or whatever. I love you, or whatever, you know. And my Dominican friends, they'd be like, my Dominican friends would call me Romantico. So to this day, my nickname is Romantico because they'd be like, "You're talking to your girlfriend all the time," or that, you know, lovey, or whatever. Yeah, it was really funny.
Romantico.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm you know, I made good friends with those guys because you know, you spend a lot of time with them playing ball, like out in the outfield doing batting practice.
Absolutely.
You know, that was a lot of time spending with dudes every single day. So you get to know them. So that was a great time. And then, of course, my American friends that I ended up staying with that season was great. Just a great time. Just, you know, like playing video games, drinking some beer, and then playing baseball all the time.
How was it playing on the field? Like actually pitching? What was that experience for you?
Okay, so my first outing ever was at Hohokam Park in Mesa, Arizona, where the Cubs used to play.
Okay.
Their spring training games. So that was my professional debut. I came in relief, and it was the bases loaded, 2 outs, and my first batter I ever faced hits a double down the left field line for a bases loaded double.
That's rude.
Yeah, that totally sucked. So then I got out of the inning, and then the next inning I got him 1, 2, 3, and I thought, yeah, this is awesome. But there was one problem. My good friend Jamie Porter, one of our outfielders from University of Washington, he goes, "Good job, Crawford," except those ground ball outs were absolute missiles. So it was so funny. The first completed inning that I ever pitched in pro ball, I gave up the hardest hit ground balls you had ever seen, and one of them, and they were all for outs. Yeah. And one of them knocked over my shortstop. It was hit so hard, and he still was able to make the play. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here, kind of thing, you know? But
yep.
But then the next game, in game number 2, I actually got the victory, which was great. I came in relief and got the victory. And then in my 3rd or 4th game, I was really trying to establish myself, but fell behind 2-0 to a hitter with the Mariners. We were playing the Mariners this night.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the night games now. So this is like my third or fourth professional game ever, and I'm just a reliever. I fall behind 2-0, and I serve one up, and this kid just absolutely destroyed it, and it's never landed.
It's still out there in orbit.
Yeah. Which is fine because after that happened, I thought, you know what? I really need to establish myself and stand up for myself and send a message.
There we go.
Okay, so now that not a good idea, but I thought it was at the moment. And
did you buzz someone after this, or what were you
next pitch was right at the guy's head, which was really dumb. Yeah.
Yeah. Make him dance a little bit. Happy feet.
Yeah, he freaked out and just basically, looked at me like, what the hell just happened? And the umpire immediately ejected me.
No warning?
No warning, just you're gone.
Yeah.
It was that obvious. Yep. So I'm like, what? What do you mean? I was like acting like I didn't mean to do it, but I really did.
Sure. So
my first ever pro homer I gave up. I had to retaliate and try and be an idiot and throw at somebody. I ended up getting suspended 3 games and fined $75 for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was pretty heartbroken over that. Yeah. So that was really dumb. But what was funny about the whole thing was how much respect I earned from all my teammates.
Really? Okay.
I was a nobody that came over from Illinois.
Yeah.
A nobody lefty. But when I did that.
But now you're a nobody that has some balls.
Yeah, nobody, and everyone just really had this newfound respect for me because I was like, because I don't know, I was just crazy like that when it came to baseball.
Are they calling you Spitty Spat or Spitty here, or what we got?
No, okay. That was just Thunder.
Okay. It didn't follow you? Okay.
No. So I struggled the rest of the season. I didn't have good numbers at all. I was kind of wild. I did strike out guys, but man, I learned so much, and I was so pumped about my future.
So you felt like you belonged, even if there were some ups and downs?
Yeah. And the hard part, and this goes for any sport, and especially baseball, but it's just so mental.
Oh, absolutely.
I could have a good game and think that I should be called up to AAA the next day, or I could have a bad game and think I'm going to get released.
Yeah.
And that just happened way too much in my career to the point where to the point where it really impacts you, unfortunately, negatively.
It's so easy to have a couple bad games and be like, I'm going to get released. Crap. Like, and then you kind of dwell on it and you're like, oh no, there's another bad game. There's another,
Yep. Yeah, but I did learn how to manage it. I wanted to be a starter. I was asked if I wanted to be a starter, and I said yes, and it never happened.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if it's because I just didn't throw hard enough to even, I was basically just an afterthought reliever for my whole career.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't throw hard. And that was one thing I always had to battle, was that my velocity was always a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Except that I was able to make it my advantage once in a while.
How so?
Well, because I had all that movement on my fastball and my curveball and my slider, and then I added a changeup even to the mix.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So.
What was the grip on that change?
Well, I would throw basically a half circle, so I wouldn't really close my circle grip.
Yeah, kind of open
all the way. I would kind of just hold it in the back of my hand. Yeah, and I would just have just enough arm speed to get guys, breaking bats.
Cool.
Yeah, so I didn't do very well my first season, but I was so looking forward to the next season, going into '98, and my next year, I didn't even go to big league training camp. I got invited to.
Let's hold on for a second. How did that off season go? Like, did you work anywhere? Like, how did you work out? How did you prepare? Like, what did you feel like you needed to do to get ready?
So I basically joined a gym. I think it was on Mather's Gun Club Road.
Really?
Yeah, it was called Planet Fitness or Planet Gym.
You came back home, right?
Yeah, I came back home. I got a trainer with my bonus money, and I worked out like 3 days a week, just basically doing basic, compound muscle movement, lifting.
Yeah.
30 minutes on the bike. I'd train every other day or every day, depending on what was going on during the off season. I'd have a part-time job.
What'd you do?
Sometimes I would work for like a temp agency, filing for a business.
Yeah.
It's just something easy. I think one time I delivered phone books. I don't know. Yeah. Just this and that, demolition or something.
Just trying to get by.
Yeah, because I just really I didn't want to do anything but play baseball. I didn't want to do anything but work out. I wanted to be Jason Worth, but I didn't have the bank account.
You did get that first round bonus, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. But I got by, and I counted down the days to the next, spring training. But another cool thing that was going on during my professional baseball days was Mark McGwire and the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, that would have been right around that time, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yep. When I was home from this, for the off season, Cardinals were still playing, and McGwire was breaking the record for the home runs. And I actually was able to go see his 62nd home run in person.
Oh man, was that stadium just rocking? What was that like?
That was beyond epic.
I can't even imagine what that felt like.
Yeah,
the electricity.
Yeah, but I had been watching McGwire. I went to I probably saw 15 home runs that year.
Wow.
I went to all these games. He'd hit 3 home runs in a game. I saw the 62nd. I was at the 70th home run.
Yeah.
So every single home run was bigger than the next, and it was like standing room only, standing ovation, stadium erupting. It was just amazing. And then here I'm playing pro ball with the A's, watching these games, and McGwire just came over from the A's, and Dave Duncan, the Cardinals pitching coach at the time, I would come bother him during the Cardinal game, like before the game started, and like Matt Morris would be throwing a bullpen in the Cardinals bullpen, and I'd yell down to Dave Duncan, "Hey, I'm with the Oakland A's. My coach is Kurt Young." My pitching coach with the A's was Kurt Young, and he'd be like, "Oh, hey, tell Kurt I said hi," and all this stuff, and I talked to him for a minute. Stuff that I
cool.
could
do.
He
didn't blow you off or anything. That's awesome.
Right. I would do stuff that, like, I was trying to take advantage of my pro status and try and talk to,
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. So, but I'd see McGwire hit all these home runs, and then I would go off and play my season, and just had another tremendous year, even though I was just a regular old reliever in rookie ball. For the 98 Phoenix A's.
Well, let's not skip past your first spring training. I would love to hear about that experience for you and what that was like, because that can be kind of a crazy thing. You get there's hundreds of players. You kind of become a little bit of a number, and especially if you're a guy like you that isn't like has big stuff. Were you feeling lost in the shuffle? Or just tell me how that spring training played out for you, if you could, please.
Yeah. Well, so that spring training starts on May 1st. So it's called extended spring training. It's the spring training that starts after the major league spring training. The major league spring training and the minor league spring training, they all start in the middle of March.
You did not go to the regular spring training?
No, not in 98. Not my first year after getting drafted.
Why is that?
Because I was only 19 and I was still really young, and they said don't, because their plan was I was only going to play for a short season team. Because of my
more rest?
more rest and my age, and they didn't want to.
Right. Okay.
They didn't want to use a resource like me on a long season roster spot.
Oh, okay.
Because their long season was advanced A ball with California.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
So like
you started
California.
and extended.
So I started and extended. This is my first spring training. So it's basically an extension to spring training, but the beginning of like rookie ball again. So it's like spring training for the rookie ball kids and the short season A ball kids.
And this is in Arizona as well?
This is in Arizona, and it also kind of revolves around the June draft.
Yeah.
Because when you break camp from
They
this,
send those guys to extended, yeah.
Right. So I go through my first extended spring training, and I do pretty good. I'm already doing better than I did my previous year. I'm already improving. But here's the thing. I could never throw harder. If anything, I was throwing slower.
Really?
So before I was throwing 86, 87, and after all the work I'd be putting into everything, I'm throwing 81, 82, 83. Yeah.
Why? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts were I did not know how to throw harder mechanically. And the things that I was learning from my coaches in pro ball were not helping me throw harder, but helping me more with control and my mechanics. So even though I had good control and good mechanics, no one was ever trying to get me to throw harder. They were just trying to use what I had and polish even more my good mechanics and my control.
But you can't really afford to lose velo if you're already mid-80s.
Right. And that upset me because I wanted more attention. I wanted more coaching.
Yeah.
But the problem is, at the same time, you're kind of just on your own. See, and that's the thing about not knowing what you're doing when you decide to go pro out of high school.
Yeah.
Is you just don't know stuff. And the bottom line is, you are a number. If you don't throw hard, you're just going to be, the last pitcher.
Filler.
Now, but that doesn't mean if you do good,
you can change that. Yeah.
You could do something. Yeah. So I was always battling.
You can change that suspect to a prospect for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I was always struggling with that, with all the velocity talk. I'd ask people all the time, how do you throw harder? How do you throw harder and all that stuff? No one knew. And so my philosophy was just try harder, work harder, and just keep grinding it out like I always did. And so I had a good extended spring training, and then the next thing you know, everyone starts to break off into their season. So rookie ball started in June, and then the short season A team started. And the short season A was in Medford, Oregon.
Okay.
And that was in the Northwest League.
Right.
That would be Portland, Oregon, Spokane, Washington, Boise, Idaho, Yakima, Washington, Eugene, Oregon, Salem, Oregon. And we were in Medford, Oregon.
Yeah.
Well, after I had a few awesome outings in extended spring training, I showed up at spring training one day, and I was getting congratulated for getting promoted to the short season A team.
Oh, cool.
Because they had no relievers and they needed someone that night. So I ended up getting promoted and flying a plane to Seattle.
That's cool.
All of a sudden, and getting a chance to pitch, and I did get to throw a few innings. But the problem is, the moment I got to pitch, all of the new draft picks arrived.
All the studs, yeah.
And they filled out all the rosters, and I ended up pitching 2 innings in one whole week.
Yeah,
and they didn't want me sitting around anymore, so they sent me back down to Phoenix, Arizona. So I finished out my season with the rookie ball A's. So I'm 19 years old. I signed a pro contract, and I only have 2 rookie ball seasons to show for it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing, but I'm only 19.
You threw well in rookie ball. I'm looking at the stats right here.
Yeah, so when I was sent back down to rookie ball, I was a whole new person, though. I was so confident, and I just dominated all year until the very last outing of that year.
Yeah.
I got rocked. So every stat that you see in my 98 line, only one bad outing, and that was at the end of the year. My ERA was under 3. It was 2 something, but everything just ballooned after that last outing. I couldn't get an out, and I gave up a grand slam and all this stuff.
Yeah, like one bad outing as a reliever can really jack your stat line up terribly. It make it look way different of a season than you actually had. Totally.
And that's why I hated being a reliever, and I wanted to be a starter, but you just deal with it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the year, I actually was awarded, and this is kind of an unofficial thing, and that's what's kind of funny about my achievements in pro baseball is that we're at home plate. All the pitchers are hanging out with Coach Young, Kurt Young, and he said, or the whole team is, and he goes, I got some announcements for you guys. We have some award winners for this year's team we want to announce. And I was picked the best, the most improved. I was the most improved pitcher of the year in 1998 for the Phoenix A's.
Hell yeah.
So after that rough year in 97, my first year, I came back and really dominated at times.
Yeah.
For being a nobody and getting the most improved award or whatever was badass.
Did that velocity climb back up into the mid 80s, or did it kind of stay in that low?
It's always stayed there. Never could get it higher.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Okay. So I had a great year in 98. I was really proud. I wish I could have pitched more. I was actually begging my pitching coach, Kurt Young, to see if he can help me get some innings in the winter leagues down in the Caribbean or something. I was just begging for more innings because I only threw 30 innings.
Right. Yeah.
That year. So I needed more. I wanted more, but he couldn't do anything for me. That it was all on an inviting, you had to be invited or whatever. I wanted to be an instructional ball, which, they keep certain players after the season and they invite them to spring training in the fall.
Yeah.
I never got anything like that. But going into the 1999 season, I actually was able to move to Phoenix in the winter. And that was amazing because that winter, so like January, February, the spring training complex was open for us, so we could just show up.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was able to find a place to live down there with some roommates, like from Chatham.
Yeah.
And so I drove to the field every day, like 5 days a week.
That's awesome.
And this was my real fantasy, though. So when the first day I show up, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in there and, lift some weights and, maybe play catch. I don't even know who's there.
And pause it. I know this is about to be an awesome story.
Yeah.
We're at our 2-hour mark. Let's take a 5-minute break and come right back. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to hang up and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, buddy.
All right, bye.
Cool. Spitty, we're back.
All right, here we go.
Let's go, buddy. All right. Story time.
So I moved to Phoenix in 99, and the facility, which was amazing, was open to anyone, that needed it to work out and take some batting practice and, maybe work on whatever. Coaches were hanging out there all the time, trainers, anything you needed. It wasn't, season stuff, but people were there hanging out, working, doing whatever.
Sure.
So I made a point to do that in this particular off season because I just had to be in Phoenix preparing for my next season. That's what I was all about.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I see in the weight room is Ricky Henderson.
Oh man.
And so after a few weeks of hanging out, working out, I'm believe it or not, like lifting weights with Ricky Henderson, the one and only.
Like talking to him?
We're like, he's doing one exercise and I'm doing it after he does. That kind of thing. And then I would just go up to him and talk to him and just ask him random questions.
Really?
And yeah, and I'm sure he doesn't remember me.
What was your experience talking to him, interacting with him?
Well, I remember I actually was out. I was out on one of the fields one time playing catch with them. So like I was just like, while I was playing catch with them, I'm like, in my head, I'm going, holy shit, I'm playing catch with the Ricky Henderson,
the greatest leadoff hitter of all time.
Yeah, and this is 1999, so he was actually a New York Met at this time. He had just been in Oakland A.
Okay.
But they didn't care. He could go wherever he wants, and he would just hang out there because I'm sure he spent many years there.
Gosh, yeah.
So he would just hang out and work out. His brother was there with him all the time, hanging out, working out with them, and I would just ask him questions. I'd be like, "Hey, you don't care if I ask you questions like this, do you?" And he's like, "No, man, Reggie Jackson used to bother me all the time." Or you go, no, he'd go, "I used to bother Reggie Jackson all the time." Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And for those of you that don't know, Ricky Henderson is known for just having this off the wall personality, and like Ricky does, there's all kinds of awesome stories. I recently read his biography. It's really awesome. And just one of the most unique characters and best, the greatest leadoff hitter of all time, greatest base stealer of all time. Yep. Just crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And, it's not like we were hanging out, best friends, but we did, he did let me hang out with them and follow him around a little bit, in the clubhouse and in the weight room. And he showed me like a little exercise here and there to do for speed. Yeah. And we played catch and I also got to meet Mark Mulder.
Yeah.
He was there.
Good.
Yeah, he was there. Tim Worrell, Todd Worrell's brother.
Yep.
He was kind of like a veteran reliever in the majors at the time. He lived in Phoenix. So he'd go there and, do some workouts, and I would run with them and talk baseball with them and tell him how much I used to love watching his brother pitch, with the Cardinals. And
sure.
Yeah, I just soaked up every little conversation I could. AJ Hinch was there, working out all the time. He was a big time prospect with the A's. Now a great manager in baseball. And Tony Phillips, rest in peace. He was there.
I know Tony myself, actually. I got to spend some time with him when I was in independent ball. He's a wild man.
Yeah, and you know what? But I didn't get to see any wildness, but we just hung out at the baseball park.
Okay.
And he was just a goof, and just easy to talk to,
Sure.
So there was a handful of guys that I hung out with that, obviously wouldn't remember me, but it was everything and then some to me. It was like my own fantasy world that I got to pitch in, and yeah, it was just the best possible experience you could ever have. And every once in a while I could throw like a bullpen, or I could, just like shag some flies or do some running with some guys.
Yeah.
Get to know some players, do some, had the training table at my fingertips, had my weight training stuff. And
that's a very cool atmosphere you're describing here.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, spring training arrives, and this is my first actual big league spring training where I was in the long season.
Yeah. Regular spring training. Yeah.
Regular spring training. And the spring training this time around, this is my third year, and I'm like really looking to play in a long season, April to September season with a high A California League team, or move on to something better. And my spring training started off slow because I was not penciled in to pitch any of the games yet. So we had already played a couple games against the Cubs or whoever we were playing against on the spring training schedule for the A team clubs.
Yeah.
And I never got in there. And I knew it was because, you know, my status, you know, on the roster, on the depth chart, I was, you know, the last pitcher, you know, but that's fine. You know, I knew I was going to get my chance. It's not like they're never going to pitch me.
Right.
And so finally one day we had a day where there was no games scheduled. And I thought, well, that sucks because I got to get into a game. I can't wait. I'm dying to pitch. And so we come in the spring training that one day. It's like a Sunday afternoon. I think every Sunday we had off.
Yeah.
And I hadn't pitched in a game yet. So I go over and look at the lineups to see if there was some sort of game being played. And it was actually like an exhibition, like, you know, simulated game between AA and AAA.
Yeah.
For the A's. So it was like a practice game. It wasn't a scheduled minor league game, you know, between the A's and whoever. And I was penciled in to pitch in this game. And I thought, okay, well, at least I'm getting into a game. So I'm going to be actually pitching against AAA today.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be on AA versus AAA. So I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I didn't get to pitch against anyone in the A minor league games.
Right.
That totally sucked. But all of a sudden now I'm getting penciled into this meaningless AA versus AAA game. So I'm like, wow, this is kind of badass.
Sure.
I'm going to be facing some future major league guys or whatever. So we you know, do our practice. We get to our game eventually, and I look over in the dugout and I see Jason Giambi. And I'm like, holy shit, Giambi's here, you know, and there's some other guys too, but he was like the stud of all the A's at that time.
Oh yeah, he had a run, man. The Giambino for sure.
Yeah. So everyone noticed, and you know, all my buddies, you know, were talking and holy shit, you know, or whatever. And I didn't really think much of it. And next thing you know, after the starter comes in and pitches his innings, I'm, you know, warming up to get in my part of the game.
Yeah.
And I get out of the bullpen after I warm up, and I walk through the AAA dugout, and there's Giambi. And I'm like, holy shit, I wonder if I'm going to be facing him.
Man, yeah.
So I walk past him, and I go into the AA dugout with my team. And so it's my turn to pitch, and I start the inning, and lo and behold, it's Jason freaking Giambi.
Wow, that's cool. Let's go.
All right, let's go. So
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. What's going to happen? So all of a sudden, I'm like, you know, I really need to make my mark here. First batter of the whole season.
You got to announce your presence with authority, man.
Yeah. So instead of, you know, freaking out and cowering in this situation, I decided I'm going to turn it up a notch, and I'm going to see if I can drop down with some sliders at Giambi to see if I can get him fishing or get him looking at something funky, because he didn't know me at all.
Right.
And I wanted to see if he can hit my best crap, you know? So
I love it.
I'm like, holy shit, this is the best moment of my life at this point. Let's go. So I rear back, and I instead of just throwing a regular slider, I kind of dropped down so that I could really like make him think I was throwing at him, to kind of just throw him off, because I didn't even warm up that way. And I knew Giambi had a good eye.
Yeah.
I dropped down, and I surprised him with the slider right over the middle of the plate. It basically went right at him, and he kind of just backed up and let it go over for a strike down the middle.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, holy shit, this is the best right now. So then The next pitch, I'm like, okay, I'm not throwing a fastball here because he'll light it up. I'm not going to throw another slider. So let me see if I can throw a little changeup at him.
Okay.
To see if I can mess him up, because the last thing he's ever looking for from a lefty
change,
is a changeup. So I threw this. It was actually probably a terrible changeup. It basically just floated in there right down the middle for a strike. Yeah. So what happened was I think it just shocked him.
Like, what is that?
It was like a batting practice times 10 fastball. And I think it was so brilliant, so right down the middle, so meaty that he couldn't pull the trigger.
He couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it. So it's 0-2.
This is a great story.
Yeah. And so then I'm like, okay, now I got to waste the fastball and see if I can just get him to look at it to see if I can get him to set up for the next pitch. So me and the catcher, we're right on cue, and he's like fastball away. So I threw a weak-ass fastball low and away for a ball, an easy take, but not like, over his head or nothing. Next pitch, I'm like, here it goes. I am going to drop down. I'm going to throw it right down the middle, and it's going to break away from the plate. So it's going to look like that first pitch I threw to him, but this time it's going to start over the middle.
Yeah.
And I fired that thing as hard as I could right down the middle, and big whiffer struck his ass out.
Got him. I
struck out Giambi in 4 pitches.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So everyone in spring training watching this game was like, holy shit, because it's me. It's not, I'm the last pitcher on the depth chart. And I made Jason Giambi grab some bench.
Grab it, buddy. Man,
I mean, and I was so pumped after this moment that I went down to one knee and I acted like I was tying my shoe. And I was looking down at the ground going, holy shit. Because I wanted to make it look like it wasn't a big deal. So I was just like, oh, let me fix my shoe. Here, hold my beer, Giambi. Hold on a second.
Man.
Yeah.
How many times you told that story? That was amazing. That was one of my favorite ones.
That was probably my claim to fame. And the funny, and another funny part is it didn't count.
You had me the whole time.
No one knows. Only a few people in this world know that I did this. Mm-hmm. There's one teammate or there's a half a dozen teammates that can attest to this. To this day, maybe, I don't know if they'd remember, but I remember calling my folks. I called Pat Mooney, that day, and I'm like, I had to tell him the whole story. And then I even faced Giambi the next inning. So every inning that I pitched,
he was up.
He led off because he was basically getting ready for his major league game later on that day.
Yeah, stars do that.
So he was like there for some extra batting practice. And the next time up, I threw a fastball right down the middle, and it kind of tailed up and into him.
Yeah.
And he checked his swing and grounded out weakly back to me.
Really?
Yeah. 1 pitch.
Man, that's awesome.
Yep. So I chopped him, and then the next day, it was like the next day was like a huge player and coaches meeting for the whole organization. Uh-huh. All the minor leaguers getting together in the clubhouse, and Billy Beane was there to introduce himself and get to know all the players. Yeah. And my minor league player development guy, Keith Littman, he was there. He's been there for a long time. I don't know if he's still there, but he was like our minor league development guy, and he was announcing in front of the whole organization about getting playing time and not getting playing time during the spring training and trying to find more at bats for you guys and all this stuff. And he goes, but make the most of your opportunity, guys. I mean, look at Jay Crawford. He he goes, look at what Crawford did to Giambi yesterday. He carved him up. And that was in front of the whole minor league organization.
Oh, man.
And I was
That's
like
cool.
sitting there going, fuck yeah, or whatever. And yeah. And
what a moment for you, man.
Yeah. Yep. And
That's
then
special. Yeah.
So I had a couple other moments that spring training where I just was I just was I don't think I've ever really been better than what I was in that spring training 1999. Even
Really?
though I didn't throw hard and I wasn't throwing harder, but my mental makeup, my physical, everything was together, my control.
Yeah.
I remember I pitched in another AAA game where I was successful and got, 1, 2, 3 inning against some Anaheim Angel players that who knows who they were. And then at the end of that spring training, I got Keith Littman and the roving pitching instructor with the A's cornered me one day, and they're like, look, we're not going to send you to a long season team. Even though you should be going, we got to get this guy and that guy up ahead of you because, frankly, they just throw a lot harder.
Sure.
And even though they're younger, like they were trying to explain themselves why I was getting the shaft and staying in long A and or short A and going into extended spring training again.
Right.
So that sucked, and I wasn't happy about it, but whatever. Nothing I could do. But I stayed for extended spring training. And, this time, I mean, we're facing, rookie ball, college players. I mean, all kinds of players, and I just dominated that extended spring training.
Yeah.
To the point where I was awarded the extended spring training pitcher of the year. So I know, it's like
a funny award, right?
I know. Well, they had pitcher and they had player.
Yeah.
And they wanted to just recognize. So again, it's like all this stuff that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But counted at that moment with the team.
Sure.
Who would ever remember something like that? Well, I guess only me. So I put it on my resume, and I'm really proud of it because if you did get to see my numbers in extended spring training, which I don't even know if they even exist, they could be in a shredder. They could be long gone or they could be sitting in some stat book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I almost faced Brian McClure that year.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, he was with the Padres and he was on the spring training team and we were playing against each other, but he never went up to bat against me.
Yeah, never got to line him up.
Yeah. I did get to face Nate Cohn one time.
Oh, that's cool.
He was with the Cubs. I got to face him. So that 1999 year, that was my first actual year where I got to travel and, pitch in front of crowds.
Yeah, more like what would you think of as a typical minor league experience as a pro baseball player?
Well, one time we had the chicken at one of our games, and
cool. Yep.
The chicken was so much fun to watch, and we had the best time watching him, and he would actually get there early before the game started, while we were working out, and he would get dressed up and practice and work on his acts, and then get some players involved in the in some of his acts, in between innings.
Yeah.
Or have another friend of his or a coworker of the chicken put on one of our uniforms.
Yeah.
And throw grounders and play catch with the chicken, and that was really fun because he was a big deal back then.
Absolutely. Where'd you live this year? Host family team.
Yeah, host family. Yeah, I was with the host family, Medford, Oregon. So that's Southern Oregon. We were the southernmost team in the Northwest League.
Yeah.
And we traveled all over the Northwest. So I got to see the Redwoods. I got to see Crater Lake.
So you guys got a pretty cool landscape to your bus rides, and those can be pretty long and boring at times.
Yeah, and the problem too with those bus rides is every one of them was throughout the night, so you never really could see anything. Yeah, that was a rough bus ride.
Yeah.
But the friendships, the relationships you made were the best ever. I mean, I remember we had a really funny guy on our team, Brad Henderson. He went to Ole Miss, and I actually think he's an announcer for Ole Miss now,
Cool.
baseball. And he's just a funny Southern dude. And he would be like doing interviews with the coach on the mic on the bus. And yeah, just cracking everybody up. It was my first and only minor league season.
Yeah.
And I just cherish every single moment I had because that was it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you know what?
Yeah.
Like, this was back in the day before people were just lost in their phones. So you actually had to interact with your teammates on bus rides. People always kind of hate on the bus rides of minor league life. I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It was like, you're like locked in this bus with your boys and you're telling stories and laughing about stuff. And I just thought it was the best.
Yeah, it can be absolutely brutal, but you have the time of your life.
Yeah.
With
bonding.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best ever. And the relationships you build.
Yeah.
Yeah, we traveled many miles, a lot of awesome stadiums we played at. I remember some of the stadiums were old and unique, like a league of their own kind of stadium.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Like in Eugene, Oregon, and then you had some really cool minor league fields, like the Bison's fields, like in Spokane, Washington, and Boise, Idaho. Those were really cool stadiums in their own right.
Yeah.
It was just, it was the best time ever, as hard as it was,
Yeah.
Yep.
And you had a pretty successful year, 3.96 and 38 innings pitched.
Yep. I had a good start to the year, but then after the start of the year, all the draft picks started showing up after they signed.
Yeah.
So I got bumped again and didn't really get to pitch much. And then I actually was at a point where I thought I was going to quit.
Really?
Yeah, I was
that frustrated.
I was so frustrated because I pitched like 2 innings and then I didn't pitch for a whole week. And I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I just felt like this was a dead end with my career, and it was really hard. I remember talking to my dad about it. But then, the moment when you think it's all over, I'm in the game. I'm in the next game, trying to win a game, and I end up helping out the team win and, get a little interview after the game. It kind of brought me back.
Baseball's funny like that, isn't it?
Yep. And then, so then we grind out through the year, and I remember striking out Ken Harvey. He was a prospect with the Royals that came up through their system and ended up making the major leagues, and I struck him out. I remember facing Matt Holliday. I remember facing Mark Ellis.
Those are some names, yeah.
Yep. And just had the best time ever. Portland, Oregon was an awesome place to play. That was the old Civic Center. It was a big AstroTurf field, very unique. Just the best experience ever, for someone like me,
Was that the field that was in that documentary, The Battered Bastards of Baseball?
I have not seen that.
You haven't? Okay. It was about the Portland Mavericks, I believe. I wonder if that's
maybe.
The same field.
I mean,
it looks very unique.
There's an old baseball blooper where the guy catches the ball and runs to the fence. It was at Portland. It was at that stadium, and it was Brian McRae.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So. Yep. So I had that season. That was the first time I ever earned a baseball card.
Oh, cool, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I held on to that forever.
You have to.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, so I struck out Giambi, extended spring training pitcher of the year. I had a good season in Medford, but I never got called up at the end of the season to go on to the playoffs, like with the high A clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Now One cool thing though that I really enjoyed that I got to do during the end of the 99 season was we had a double header. And this was like one of the last games of the year, so everyone's excited that the season's going to be over, but we're also fighting for our playoff lives.
Yeah.
We had a 2 7-inning game doubleheader. And these were our last home games. I come in relief and pitch the first game. I pitch real well, and I am shut down for the rest of the evening, so I get to just not have to even dress for the second game because I already pitched my pitches, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they were the announcers on the radio station for our baseball team actually asked me if I wanted to come on the radio and do some play-by-play with them.
Yeah.
So during the second game, I got to be on the radio and do the play-by-play, or I mean the color with our main guy doing play-by-play.
That's pretty cool.
Had the time of my life.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing was when everyone started getting computers and the internet, my folks would listen to my games online.
Yeah.
Every night throughout that season. And it was kind of like on a delay, and there would actually be like a pause throughout the broadcast. So you would get a delay, then you would get like silence for like a minute. Then you would hear it for like 5 minutes, and then over and over, and it was dial-up connection.
Yeah.
So I got to announce the game, and my folks got to hear me do the color.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. And enjoyed a great year. We came up short the last game of the year, but my performance, my physical conditioning, my baseball IQ was at its top ever.
Yeah.
I wasn't throwing hard. I was still throwing 81, 82 probably. I just could not get over that. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I mean, I'm sure there was plenty of things I was doing wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I could just, I mean, my control, my curveball, it was just an absolute, it was at the very peak of my entire career. Yeah, I was really enjoying a good, solid career at this point, I think.
Sure. So this year ends, and then is there anything unique about the off season, or do you want to take us?
Yeah, no, I got a job that off season at the Springfield Racket and Fitness Center, actually.
Okay.
So I did some front desk work.
Okay.
And got to know those folks there, and got to work out for free.
Sure.
As an employee.
Yeah.
So basically, I just stayed home all off season and worked out, ran. I joined at St. John's Hospital. I joined a running program. It was called Athletic Care.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember her name, but she was an awesome trainer. But she helped me.
Was it Tracy Scales?
Yes, it was.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Tracy Scales Acceleration.
She was awesome.
Yeah, she was awesome. I love that lady. She was great.
Yeah, so she helped me get faster. But one of the last sessions I had before I was off to spring training, I pulled my hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never get it healthy again until spring training started when I went out there. So I kind of got off to a late start in spring training. And let's see. I basically got off to a late start, got some treatment, got my leg worked on, and I finally got into a game. And it was against the Cubs, and it was against Hesop Troy.
Okay.
Remember him?
Of course.
Yep. So, unfortunately, when I came home after the season in 1999, I was playing catch with my brother. It was like October, November. we were playing catch out at the Chatham Park, where my brother used to work.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing catch, and I'm like, I really need to get stronger. I really need to, throw harder and do some long toss. And so I was working on long toss. Something just wasn't right, and I just felt something hurt so bad in my shoulder. So the rest of the whole off season, I was battling some shoulder pain every time I threw.
Yeah.
So I never was quite right. I wonder if at that point I had torn a rotator cuff.
Absolutely. For sure.
So I didn't want to face the music about it. I was worried. I was hoping it would just go away and I could just like fight through it. And anyway, so I got into a game and I bet I didn't even throw 80 that day. And the funny thing is, I threw 3 innings against the high A Daytona Beach Chicago Cubs with Hesop Troy as one of the players.
Yeah.
And who knows who else was on that team. I was not even throwing 80 miles per hour, and I threw 3 innings, gave up a few hits, struck out 4 batters. I think I gave up a triple to Troy.
Yeah.
It was a hard ground ball down the right field line. Like it went past the first baseman and he got the third on it.
Right.
But I never allowed a run.
Got by on some guts there.
Yeah. And, I'm like dropping down. I'm like being more crafty than ever because I knew I just wasn't throwing hard at all.
Yeah.
But I was like, fuck it. I'm just going for it. And the next day or 2 later, I get that call you never want to hear. And that's when our trainer came up to me and he said, "Hey, Keith Littman wants to see you."
Yep.
And here I'm getting ready to, get ready for my next practice and my next session. And I go into his office and next thing you know, he's telling me and trying not to cry. And he's like, "Look, we have to let you go."
Ugh, I know,
like,
man.
He goes, yeah. And this was tough. He goes, "You're not going to make the major leagues." He goes, "Give it up. Move on with your life."
Man.
And I'm like, and I'm like, should I try and try out for another team? Like I was thinking, like, do I need to call? And he's just shaking his head and he's like, I wouldn't even try. Like he was just basically saying, don't even bother.
Oh, I don't know. That's a weird thing to say. I mean, can't you just play baseball because you love it and keep playing minor league ball for a couple of years if you wanted to? I don't know. It's a weird thing to say to someone.
Yeah, I wasn't happy. I was like almost crying, or I might even cried.
Sure.
I was hit so hard. I was totally blindsided.
That is a moment. Yeah. Getting released. Being a professional baseball player and getting that call into your skip's office or whoever is going to cut you. Man, it's a heavy moment.
And, and looking back on it, all the games that I had in pro ball, it's such a mental grind.
Oh, yeah.
It really is, because if you do good, you can't wait for the next game to play in. And if you do bad, you are doubting yourself and you are like, why am I even here?
Okay.
And it happens so much that it really ends up getting the best of you. If you're not strong enough mentally to overcome that, if you can tell yourself, I am confident, I can do this, I do belong here, and be that way the entire time, that's one thing. But if it's too much of a battle, too many times that I get caught doubting myself.
Yeah, that's such a tough place to be in baseball. Yeah. Doubting yourself is just cancer.
There's days when I could go out there and I knew exactly where that ball was going to go and I could do it. And I was like, wow, I'm going to the big leagues, baby. And then the next game, something's wrong mentally. And you're like, how am I going to get through this?
Yeah, man.
So then I came home and I decided, let's try and play for the Capitals and see how that goes.
Really? Okay.
so I ended up trying out with the Capitals. Well, before I actually tried out, I got together with Don Heron. He was the coach for the Capitals at the time.
Yep.
And I sat down and I talked to him, and I told him what was what happened, and he said, "Well, let's look at your mechanics and let's see if we can help you, get some velocity back or whatever." So I worked on stuff with him, and he did teach me a lot. Don Heron did a few. I worked with him a few days, and we worked on my mechanics, and he taught me about velocity. And the thing is, and I don't know if you know Don, and I don't know what the opinion is of Don, but I never knew the guy until this point in my life. I know I played against him when he coached Southeast.
Right.
But I spent some time with him. He taught me some mechanics, and he taught me more in these few days about pitching than I ever knew my entire life.
Really?
Or that I was taught my entire life, because
So you think highly of him?
absolutely. And you know what? I never got to say thanks to him, and I really wish. I even had a few moments. This was like in 2014 when I was typing up my book, or whatever you want to call it. I was thinking about Don Heron a lot, and the time he spent with me before I tried out with the Capitals. And by the way, he cut me. I did not make the team.
Really?
But the thing is, when I pitched, I was shit sandwich.
Like, was your shoulder toast?
I just could not break a pane of glass.
Yeah. So your
I had
rotator cuff was
nothing.
torn. Yeah.
I had nothing. Yeah, and I thought I did, though. So it was like really tough mentally and emotionally. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I'm barely hanging on here,
Sure.
But he taught me so much about velocity and all this stuff. It really made sense to me, but I just couldn't do it. Physically, I just couldn't do it because I think my arm was just messed up.
Yeah.
And then it started to die. My whole edge.
Yeah.
So then I tried out. So I pitched in a game. I got, I got 3 outs. I didn't give up any runs, maybe, but I was nothing. And after the game, he had made the cuts, and I didn't make the list or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just walked out, and I never said another word to him again. And that was in 2000.
Well, I hope he hears this and feels appreciated.
Yeah, because
Maybe we can get this to him.
Yeah, I really appreciate what he taught me, because I took what he taught me with me to my coaching.
Yeah.
Which started 10 years later.
At what point did you get your shoulder checked out here?
So after I got cut from the Capitals, I tried out with the River City Rascals with Neil Fiala.
Mm-hmm.
I got a hold of him, and he said to come out the next day and try out with us, because I was not accepting the fact that I couldn't throw.
Yeah.
And I thought it would just go away, and I thought I could just try out, and if I was able to pitch an inning, maybe the Rascals would keep me and I could hang on.
Right.
So I drove all the way down to St. Louis that day, and I got loose, worked out, but the whole time I'm throwing the ball, like when I'm playing catch, I can't even lift the ball over my shoulder. Yeah. I was hurting so bad, and I still was in doubt. I still was not accepting it, and I'm like, I'm just going to warm up and try out for this team.
That's a warrior mentality, man. It's crazy. Yeah.
So finally, the game's going on. It's a practice game, tryout / thing or whatever. And Neil goes, "Hey, Jay, you ready to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he sends me down to the bullpen. That first pitch I threw in the bullpen, it felt like someone stabbed me with a knife in my shoulder.
Oh, no.
And I was like right here, and I couldn't even go any further with the ball. And it would just like pop out of my hand and barely make it to the catcher. and I'm like holding my shoulder, and I'm like, I'm done. I just can't. This can't happen now. So I walk off, and the game, and so I go up to coach, and I go, I can't pitch. And he's like, what? And he goes, and I said, yeah, my arm's just shot. I'm hurting. But thanks for, offering it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really talk to him much. And then like after the game ended, I came up to him and I was just in tears. I was in tears because I knew this was it. So I drove home. I walked in the house, crying my eyes out, and I'm like, it's over.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was all dramatic and everything, and but
it's okay.
Yep. So it took me years to get over because it was so abruptly over.
It's okay, man. I'm still getting over my career ending. I'm almost 40.
So
sometimes that pain never goes away totally.
Yeah. But so despite that, I did end up getting my degree.
Hey Jay, something's squeaking in your background.
Yeah, it's my dog.
Okay. All
right. Hold on.
I was like, is that a chair? What is that?
Is that Jay crying? Yeah. So after baseball ended, I got my degree. I went to Robert Morris College in Springfield.
Right.
I was really conservative. I did not know what to do. I didn't know what to get into.
Did you get your shoulder fixed?
I got my shoulder fixed by Dr. Watson in Springfield.
Yeah, I know him well. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, tell him hi. I owe him a case of beer.
Sure.
And yeah, he he's the reason why I can play catch with my kids. I mean, I can throw every day.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can pitch still and everything. Just not obviously like I used to, but
was it rotator and labor or what was it?
Just cleaned up some scar tissue, torn rotator cuff, no labrum.
Okay.
I was in a sling for 6 months. I went to Robert Morris College. I got my degree. I wasn't much of a student growing up. I never had good grades.
Right.
So I was proud that I was able to, get my bachelor's degree.
Sure.
But while I was growing up and, working at Barnes & Noble for a while, for Adam Feld's older brother, Chris, and going to college, I never stopped loving baseball. I would go to a Cardinal game every chance I got, or I would go with my buddies and go to Cincinnati and see a game, or the Wrigley or whatever stadium, and see the Cardinals nonstop, for those years.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, of course, I met my wife, and we got together. We met in Vegas, actually.
At a bachelor party.
Well, no, actually, I was with some friends for just a weekend getaway with Hank Sherman, fellow Glenwood alum from 1988.
Okay.
He took me out with another doctor friend of his, and I was just like basically the talent show that came along with him and his doctor buddy. And I was still in college, and we went to a P.F. Chang's restaurant one night on the Strip, and I met my wife. She was there at the bar, and I'm being stupid and drinking some stupid drink, and we got to talking, and she gave me her email address.
Yeah.
And we stayed in touch for 4 years. And I moved out here to Buffalo in 2006, and we got married in 2007, and we got two young boys, and I've been here ever since.
I love stories like that, man. So you kept in touch for 4 years before it finally became like a real chance to make it a relationship.
Yeah, we were just friends. She gave me her email address. Just being stupid. She thought, wow, I really want to stay in touch with this guy. And we would just email each other, and she would call once in a while. We would just talk on the phone, like for pick-me-ups kind of thing.
Yeah.
Throughout those 4
friends.
years, and just
cool.
friends, and it was a great time. And then we started talking on the phone a little bit too much in 2006, and I decided I got to come out and see you.
Yeah.
and I flew out to Buffalo, and then 6 months later I moved out to Buffalo.
I love it.
Yep. And you know, she wasn't a baseball fan much until I got in the picture.
Yeah.
And Marcia and I have since gone to a bunch of games together, thanks to Mr. Worth.
Nice.
Jason got us. He got Marcia and I tickets to a World Series game.
Oh wow.
So we got to watch him play in Philadelphia and watch him win a World Series game against the Rays.
That's sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. And we've seen a bunch of other games that Worth left tickets for us.
Awesome.
Yeah, with the Nationals and Phillies and Pirates, or whenever you go like on the road, you know.
And you guys have maintained some sort of a friendship throughout the years, haven't you?
Yeah, Jason and I, you know, we just text each other, and I'll just text some random, you know, spitty spat stuff, you know, from 30 years ago, and it's hilarious. And
that's the good stuff, man. Those are good friendships like that. Yeah.
Yep. But you know, my life in baseball has been beyond a dream. You know, you can't even imagine, you know, the things that I experienced all those years.
Yeah.
It's one of a kind story, and I'm so proud, you know, to have lived this, and it's still going. I mean, all these stadiums that I go see with my family, and watching Cardinal baseball and doing this interview right here, it's just adding on to it, and I really appreciate it.
Man, you're getting me choked up here, man. That's I love how you're putting this. And eventually you were back in the game coaching at a
in 2008. Yeah, so when I moved to Buffalo, I really wanted to get into coaching, because I just, you know, I'm not the best worker, I'm not the best student, you know, I'm just a baseball guy. You know, I just like sports.
Yeah.
And I like coaching, I like the game. It's just what I'm good at. I'm obsessed with it in a way. I've always been into fitness, you know, just from all the years with Kim Worth and you know, the years with the A's. You know, I always liked reading up on players and their fitness routines.
Yeah.
You know, I always really liked that, and like mechanical stuff, and you know, or the mental side of the game. You know, I remember we had a guy with the Oakland A's, this old guy that was part of the organization, a well-respected coach named Carl Keel. He, you know, a lot of people don't know who this guy was, but he wrote a book about the mental side of the game.
Okay.
And he would talk to us as a whole organization. He would talk to us for an hour, like during spring training one day, or during the summer during rookie ball, and he would be like, I talked to Ray Knight one time, and he said his approach is this, and I talked to this guy, and he said his approach is this, and you guys should really think about it. So like everything that I learned in baseball, I've tried to pass on to the kids that I've coached.
Yeah.
And even though it's not like YouTube and scientific, there is still a lot of value to what I bring to the table, and that is the experience. Even if it's old school, even if it's running 3 miles instead of running sprints and doing plyometrics, all of that does have value.
Sure.
And I got into coaching in 2008, and I stuck with it for a good 6 years.
Yeah.
And gave thousands of pitching lessons.
Yeah.
So I'd work with kids every day. I do, you know, sometimes I do 10 lessons in a day, like on a Saturday morning to afternoon.
Yeah.
And just one after another, lesson after lesson, how to throw a baseball, how to pitch, talk about the mental side, you know, talk about my experiences. You know, when I did this, this is why I did it like this, and you know, might want to try it this way. And just always being a student of the game, and coaching is so helpful to learn stuff too, you know?
Yeah, man, I love how you put that. And then, so why did you eventually walk away from that, or why did that opportunity end?
Well, my 2 kids were starting to grow up, and I wanted to coach them in Little League, so I kind of went off onto my own kind of thing, and I got away from it. But I also was into specialty pharmacy, I was I got to know a guy. I became friends with a dad that I used to give pitching lessons to his son, and he was starting up a specialty pharmacy for patients with hemophilia.
Yeah.
And while I was coaching baseball, I was also working a full-time job at an ambulance company on the business side, and I was doing billing and stuff like that. So when he opened up this specialty pharmacy, I started. He wanted me to come on board because he liked how I worked with his son in pitching, and he thought maybe I could help him with his pharmacy. So I worked for him for a few years.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So, I mean, baseball has opened up a lot of different opportunities for me.
Absolutely.
And he loved that. And so, like, he thought I was like his professional baseball player on, for his work staff.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of treatment that I've gotten from some folks over the years is I've tried to take advantage of my professional status in some ways.
It could open doors for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, other times not so much, but it's all about how you market yourself. And, I tried to, I've sat down and written out a bunch of stuff about my career and everything, but I think this platform is really the easiest way just to talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
The podcasts are the way to go now, but, yeah, so I'm still very much involved in the game. This past summer, my family and I went to Lincoln, Nebraska for a retirement party for one of our cousins. And on the way there, we hit Wrigley, we hit Kansas City, we hit Minnesota, Milwaukee, and the White Sox.
Oh, what a cool trip, man.
So for 2 weeks, we hit all those major league parks.
Wow.
So all of, the whole family,
How old are your boys again?
They're 12 and 10.
Oh, so they can totally appreciate that and love that. Man, that's a great age for that.
Yeah, and my 12-year-old loves baseball and he plays it. He's a left-handed pitcher, and we enjoy it. We love sports too, just in general, just all sports.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old likes baseball a little bit, not as much. He's not as into it, but we still love the game, and just really because of me, and just seeing all the parks and all that fun stuff, and yeah, it's just been such a huge part of my life. So
I love it, my man. Well, we're getting close to the end here. This has been like the coolest journey. You're such a unique dude. You're unlike a typical baseball bro. I said it earlier. You're a breath of fresh air. I'd love to get to some baseball questions if you have a little time for me here, and we can just riff a little bit.
Yep. And then I also want to say that one huge person in my life that I really have to owe something to, and that's Josh Bruner. He was a friend of mine my freshman year that passed away in a car accident on the way home from Field of Dreams.
Oh wow, in Dyersville, Iowa.
Yep, right before our senior year, I was playing with the Thunder, and we were at the World Series in Crystal Lake, Illinois, which is near Chicago, and he was in Dyersville, and there was a car accident, and he passed away. And that was my first time ever experiencing, a death.
Powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, especially a friend, not just a relative.
Yeah.
And that really kind of shaped my my teen years and my baseball life, because I always thought of him and kind of like dedicated my career and that kind of thing to him, because he wasn't able to experience that kind of stuff, and I was able to bring some joy to his mom and dad and his brother through my baseball career, and I would continue to be friends with them and talk to them over the years, and that kind of thing. Not enough really, but we're Facebook friends, and he just had a huge impact on my life, because that was the only time I've ever experienced something like that. And no one obviously wants to go through something like that, but I can thank him for helping me push through and not regret or not take anything for granted in life, so
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I had to say his name in this interview.
I'm glad you did. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, my man.
Yeah.
You ready to get to some questions?
Yeah, let's go.
I added a few kind of as we went, just because as I've learned of you, and I give these guys these questions beforehand so they can kind of get an idea and think about them a little bit. But knowing that you're a Jordan guy, are you a Jordan shoe guy? Do you have a favorite pair of Jordans?
I have a favorite pair of Air Jordans, the 1989 Air Jordan 4s.
Okay.
The red and black with they're white with the red and black, and they're like the checkered looking things.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but I love those. I have a pair of Air Jordan 3s.
Those are great.
That I got for Father's Day.
Uh-huh.
And my 12-year-old has a pair of the Air Jordan 1s.
Classics.
Yep,
I'm a Jordan guy myself, shoe guy.
Okay, yeah. So what shoes do you have?
I'm a big 1 guy. I like 3s. I like 4s. I love 11s. Those are my like grails, the Concords. But 1s and 11s are my favorite. I like the 3s, 4s. I like 6s. 12s are cool, but
yeah. My 10-year-old actually has the Bugs Bunny version ones from the 92 season. That was the Air Jordan 5, I believe, or 6.
Yeah.
6 probably, but yeah, I just, it doesn't matter which Air Jordan, really. What any of them are great, but I can associate every single Air Jordan with the season that he had.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And my favorite season ever of Jordan is probably the 1988 season where he was MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, and slam dunk champ and that kind of stuff. But a lot of his seasons I can dissect every one of his single seasons and say, wow, this one might be the best ever. Wow, this one might be, because of all the circumstances and what was at stake. And it's more than just the stats.
Yeah.
But by far, probably 1988 was his greatest season ever. Like, as far as all the stats put together and the game scores and
yeah. That's a great answer, man.
All right. But Air Jordans. I grew up with a couple of different Air Jordans too, like wearing them at school and stuff. So
I grew up, my parents would not get those for me. They would not drop that money. So when I got a little older and started making some money, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get some Jordans. It's Jordan time.
Yeah.
All right. Best baseball movie of all time.
Best baseball movie of all time is probably I'm going to say The Natural.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
Robert Redford, so good.
But there's Bull Durham's up there. Major League is up there, and I really like.
Yeah.
And I really like For Love of the Game.
Yeah.
Because that movie had a lot of really cool, highlights of the pitching in the Yankee Stadium, and it was so real looking.
Yeah.
It was pretty good effects, and I like the story.
Kevin Costner is a fantastic baseball actor. He's just number one.
He's in so many baseball movies too. So he's
so believable. Like, he swings well, he throws it well. Like, he looks good out there.
Yeah, and we've been to Field of Dreams. We on the way to Lincoln, Nebraska, a different year. Well, last summer, not this summer. We went to Field of Dreams, and we drove all night and pulled up to the parking lot that morning. We get out of the car, and another car parks next to us, and they get out of the car, and I go, "We're from Buffalo, New York," and he goes, "We're from Rochester, New York." Yeah, so that's just funny. But I love The Sandlot. Those movies are awesome. But The Natural is awesome because I like the drama, with the home run at the end.
Yeah.
He was about ready to die almost.
Yeah.
I love the bat that he made.
Wonder Boy,
and then the Savoy Special.
Yeah, the Bat Boy.
I love him pitching against the Whammer and striking out Babe Ruth.
That's a great movie, man.
Yeah, I mean, and then the music is so amazing.
Oh, iconic. That trumpets, that, like, when he hits the lights. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, worst baseball movie.
Worst baseball movie? I don't know. Probably like Rookie of the Year. One of those. But they're
Right.
still silly and fun. I mean, oh, and I really like The Rookie too. You know, with Dennis Quaid and that Jim Morris
Yeah. Yep.
story. But yeah.
Okay. Favorite players growing up?
Willie McGee.
Yep.
Love John Tudor. I love Mark Langston, Roger Clemens, Nolan Ryan. I read Miracle Man, his biography,
Yeah.
his autobiography. Loved every page of that. Yeah, big fan of Nolan Ryan, but never really got to see him pitch. I loved Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
I got to see him pitch. Loved
Me too.
Darryl Kyle. Chris Detmers, who, by
Okay.
the way, I wanted to talk about Chris Detmers because I got to know him as a pitcher in college with my brother at Lincoln Land.
Uh-huh.
And I was totally obsessed with him. He was my idol because he was like a big lefty that was throwing hard, and I wanted to be just like him.
Yeah.
And when I got to know him, you know, he would teach me, you know, a little bit here and there of some stuff. And what was so ironic and great about him is that he had this son 20 years later,
Yeah. Broke your K record.
broke my strikeout record.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that
I thought
crazy?
that was a really interesting story in my
Full,
realm of
full
in my
circle.
yeah. So back in 2017, I kept track of Reed's season and saw that he was striking out everybody, and he ended up breaking my record in the last game of the year that they lost.
Yeah.
And you know, could I have been upset that my record was broken? Yes, but it wasn't like a nobody who broke it. It was
Right.
my
Yeah.
idol's son,
Yeah.
who
That's
is
cool.
now in the major leagues and has thrown a no-hitter with the Angels and was a first-round pick. And
Pretty
I
dang cool,
mean,
right?
yeah, like, okay, I'll take that
I'll
for
take
second
that.
place.
That's perfect because like
Yeah.
2 questions down, my next question was going to be, who did you look up to locally? So you just answered that totally.
Yep.
Were Cardinals that was your favorite team coming up?
Yep. So Willie McGee, I loved Mark McGuire. Adam Feld actually texted me the other day and goes, "Do you remember batting like Ray Lankford for a whole season one year?"
Oh, Ray Lankford.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's so funny because I think one year I was like trying to act like Ray Lankford all summer.
It was like a real upright stance, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to hit like him all the time because I,
Loved Ray
I just
Lankford.
never really cared that much about hitting.
So it was just kind of fun to you to just mess around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was
that's
probably
fun.
better at imitating than actually hitting the ball.
Loved Ray Lankford.
Yeah.
Pitching wise, what professionals did you try to mimic mechanic wise?
Well, I really liked, and even if they were right-handers, I really liked Todd Stottlemyre. I really liked Donovan Osborne. A lot of these guys were like easy to watch because they're always on TV.
Yeah.
You know, with Cardinal games. I really like Tom Glavine.
Yeah. That's
You
what
know,
you know. I was gonna say that when I was watching. I went back and watched both your state games or whatever, or the ones that are on YouTube, and I thought there was shades of Tom Glavine in there.
Yep, because I would watch Tom Glavine on TBS all the time, and I would see how he would handle batters and then come inside on a righty,
Mm-hmm.
but also have really good mechanics. And he was very quiet out there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, very calm. So I kind of like that, you know, watching him a lot. Or like Steve Avery, another lefty. I was always into lefties.
Sure.
But I was always a pitcher's guy too. Like when we were talking about fantasy baseball all the time and stuff with some buddies, I would always go for the pitchers and not the hitters as much.
Yeah.
You know, just because I felt like I had that going for me.
Yeah.
But
cool. All right. Best baseball video game.
MVP 05, hands down, no
Dude.
questions asked.
Yes, that is the only correct answer. Thank you for saying that. No one has said it yet. That is
Listen
the best game.
Over the years, okay, so I mean, I got buddies that they're dying laughing right now. Listen to this. We would play hours and hours MVP 05.
Oh, that game is addicting.
Yeah, we played it nonstop. I played it nonstop. thousands of games probably. I got really good at that game. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And what was cool though, playing MVP 05 on PlayStation 2, was that Jason Worth was on the game.
Yep.
So I got to the Dodgers.
The Dodgers, yeah, Dodgers, yeah.
But as the years went by, and I still kept playing MVP 05 because there was never a better game that came out.
That's the damn truth.
I would just edit the lineups and stuff on my memory card, and
That's
I would
awesome.
And I would like put Worth on the Phillies.
Oh, I love
it. And yeah. So, and then before that though, MVP 05. Before that, it was triple play baseball on the old PlayStation. That was fun. And then before that, the best baseball game ever was Bases Loaded.
Everyone's mentioned that. That was kind of old school in
RBI
Nintendo days.
RBI baseball and Bases Loaded. Yeah. So
can't go wrong. All right. Best things to do on bus trips. What were some of your favorite things?
Best thing to do on bus trips. 1996, on the way to the state tournament, me and my buddy Darren McMasters and Adam Feld, and I think some other players, got these Cracker Jacks, these boxes of Cracker Jacks. And we opened them up, and they had, you know how they always had the prizes inside the box?
Yeah.
Well, we opened it up, and it had wisecracks inside the box. So you opened up this little package of a card, and it was basically jokes. And they were called wisecracks. And the wisecrack, you would open up and it would say, "How you doing?" And it was so dumb, and we didn't understand what the humor was. But we all like opened up our wisecrack cards, and we all started telling each other our wisecracks, and one of them was, "Hawaii doing?" Like Hawaii, the state.
Yeah.
My feet hurt. Doesn't make any sense. We don't know why that was a wisecrack. Smile and say cheese. So instead of saying smile and say cheese, it was smile and say teeth, like teeth.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know if this was like a milk advertisement or something, but it was like a lot of dairy stuff. So there's another one that said, "This is utterly ridiculous." So that had something to do with the cow.
Cow.
And then there's one more wisecrack that said, what was it? "Can I have some more chocolate milk?" Okay, so totally dumb, totally didn't get it. But the whole ride to the state tournament with my buddies was, we would read each other the wisecracks and then fake laugh. The whole bus trip there. And it was so funny because we actually were starting to laugh for real.
That does sound like some high school dudes, yeah.
Just the dumbest, stupid, yeah. And then there's another time where there was like a box of donuts, and there was like one donut left, and it was like really late in the trip, and we're almost home or something. Everyone was like sleeping on the bus or whatever. And I don't know, someone grabbed a Long John donut and set it on one of our coach's like laps while he was sleeping, and we all thought it was so funny. And then someone like grabbed it off his lap and started eating it, and we just thought it was the funniest, just stupid. If we got together and hung out, we would talk about stupid stories like that.
Yeah.
And no one, it just had to be there, kind of thing, you know. Yeah. I'm sure you know, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's tons of stuff like that. Did you ever have intro music? Did you get to choose your own?
Oh, that's hilarious. So instead of me, you know, picking out the best hip hop song, you know, to warm up and pitch, or the best, you know, pop song or country song that everyone likes, I went old school hardcore, and I took one of my dad's favorites and picked ELO. So
I'm not familiar with it.
Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh, what?
So I told like the announcers, or the guys that handle all the technology, when they asked me what my song wanted to be, I said it's a living thing from ELO. So it's a living thing. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Yeah, so I'd be out there warming up. and that would be my song, and everyone would just be laughing like, idiot, idiot. Yeah. Yep.
Dude. All right. Best teammate you ever had?
Best teammate. Well, Feldy and Worth
Yep.
are definites. But I will say one of my best teammates I ever had was Jamie Porter. He was like my teammate for 3 years in a row, basically, with the A's.
Okay.
He's from Washington. He's from Seattle. And he and I roomed together all those years, and we're still friends to this day. And he's just, he was like basically a right-handed Lenny Dykstra.
Okay. Yeah, I got you then.
His favorite player was Nails.
Yeah.
And
love Lenny myself.
Yeah, and he played like him, but he was a right-hander. He was a leadoff hitter. He liked to walk. He was super fast, had a great arm, but he just had a lot of injuries, and he never really played. You know, he got released like I did. You know, he didn't play much, but he did play for University of Washington. But funniest dude I've ever met, just great guy. We just had the best time ever. And a lot of it was just hanging out in our apartment, playing video games and waiting for our next game.
Yeah.
You know, I actually borrowed his truck one time in Phoenix so I could go buy some Cardinal tickets because they were coming to Phoenix coming up in the season when they were playing the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And the poor guy, I actually totaled his truck.
What?
I'm driving through the city of Phoenix, and I drove through a yellow light, and this other car was coming to take a left, and we hit head on.
Jeez.
And this was during the season in 1998, and luckily I only missed a few days. But yeah, I totaled his truck, so that's something that if I did talk to him right now, I'd probably bring up and apologize to him about.
Yeah.
But he was a great sport about it. But we spent a lot of time together. He's from Seattle. We keep in touch. He would run through a wall, though. I mean, you just love that about this guy. And
that kind of
teammates like that, you know.
Glove of choice.
Glove of choice.
Yeah. Like brand. We were Rawlings, Easton,
Yep.
Mizuno.
Yep. Couldn't care less. One that catches a ball. But I'll tell you, you know what? I had a glovesmith.
Oh yeah, I did too back in the day.
I forgot his name. Some guy, he made glovesmiths for us or something, or I don't know what happened, but yeah, I got a hold of one of those, and that worked for me my whole career. So that was
it? Did Kenny Gand used to?
Kenny Gand, that's who it was. Kenny
Gand. The Mitt Mender used to sell
Mitt Mender.
And those are solid gloves. I had a shortstop glovesmith in high school. I think it was an absolute tank.
Yeah. No, I love the glovesmiths. Yeah. So.
All right, most talented teammate or teammates that never played pro ball. Give me a couple. Feldy, right?
Feldy was number one. Okay. Yeah. The problem with Feldy is I just don't know if he threw hard enough.
Yeah, that's what he said.
We don't. A lot of people in my circle don't understand why he didn't get a look. Or more of a look, but I don't know what his velocity really was. I think
you told me it was like 86-ish, 87.
Yeah. His deception though was so amazing. And his mechanics were messed with a little bit when he went into when he went into college. And he kind of became a little bit differently mechanically.
Yeah.
So it kind of took away from his advantages that he used to have with the awesome windup that he had in high school.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if Adam's arm was healthy enough to really develop or progress.
Yeah.
More. It was just hard because you're living life, you're playing other sports.
Sure.
He went to Mineral Area College, and he also didn't want to go to Lincoln Land and wanted to see what else was out there, kind of thing.
Yep.
And that didn't quite work out. And then he ended up going back to Lincoln Land.
Yep.
But competitor, I mean, yeah, you name it. He had everything you'd want in a pitcher, with the stuff, with his makeup, with his, all the mental qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the best pitcher I ever played with that didn't go pro. I think my brother is another player.
Okay.
That I never actually played with, but he could have definitely easily played pro ball. I mean, I don't know how far he would have gotten, but he just didn't care enough.
Yeah.
But he did everything and then some, good enough to to hold his own.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you have done anything different in your pro career? Do you have any regrets?
I just wish I would not have doubted myself so much. And I also wish I would have, well, I mean, you can always, you can do this all day, every day, but, knowing about, more about speed and power, I kind of wish I would have focused on more fast twitch muscle stuff.
Yeah.
But you only know what you know at that time, and you make the best of it.
Yeah.
So who knows really, like what would have,
Absolutely.
what would have happened. So I really can't say I have any regrets.
Absolutely.
But you always think about, oh man, I wish I kind of would have known about this and that mechanically or something, to give me that extra.
100%.
Yeah.
Would this next question is most talented teammate ever? Is that Jason?
Jason by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even anyone I played in pro ball
Right.
with.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, it was just like he was like one of those video game players.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not even close.
What coach had the most impact on you in your career?
What coach? Well, I'll just say probably Coach Moomy.
Yeah.
I mean, I played with a lot of good coaches, but all the situations and circumstances I was going through didn't allow me to get to know some of my professional coaches I played with.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with Moomy.
Sure.
Even though Coach Moomy, he didn't always have this new thing or that new thing or that suggestion all the time, but it was just his demeanor, his presence, and all the confidence we had in him.
What were the two favorite fields you ever played at? One or two?
I played at Busch Stadium.
Oh, cool.
In 94 and 95.
Really?
Yep. And that was the old turf.
Yeah. Hot field.
And I just thought that was amazing. I always dreamed of playing there. That dream came true. I got to catch a fly ball in left field.
Wow.
It was a bomb that was hit. We were playing Lincoln High School both years.
Yep.
And I was a freshman and I was playing in left field. Coach was hiding me out in the outfield just to let me play an inning, in this meaningless exhibition game.
Yeah.
And this kid hit a bomb to left field. And it went so freaking high. And then you had that third deck,
mm-hmm.
In the background. It is the most majestic fly ball you'll ever see in your life, especially as a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And you're at Busch Stadium. I'm running. And you gotta know like how I used to run. See, the reason why Kim got a hold of me to help me with my training is because I used to run a lot on my heels more than on my toes.
Yeah.
So my sprinting before Kim got a hold of me, I would run on my heels.
Yeah.
So but luckily Kim got a hold of me before this play was made, but it was more on my toes this time. But I felt like I ran forever towards the left field foul pole. and I happened to get under it and catch it, and everyone just made the biggest deal about it because it was me, the one that was catching it, you know.
Yeah.
And I did get to pitch in Busch Stadium the next year. I got to make the start. I got to pitch one inning, the first inning, and that was pretty amazing. So I was like John Tudor for a day.
Yeah.
One of my idols, or Joe McGrain, or Donovan Osborne.
That's awesome.
And that was really amazing. I also got to play at a lot more really cool stadiums. Let's see, where else did I get to play? Let's see.
We got a lot of questions to get through, bud.
Yeah. Well, they'll just say Busch Stadium for now.
Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure we get them all in.
Yeah.
And okay. How about what were some of your favorite local players coming up with to compete against?
Well, Corey Erickson. I got to see Corey play in my sophomore year. I was with Glenwood, and I was like on the bench a lot, waiting to pitch in relief or pitch on a Saturday doubleheader.
Yeah.
And we were playing a conference game. Todd McClure was pitching. This is Corey's senior year, Todd's senior year. This is at Chamberlain Park. Corey just absolutely annihilated this ball that still hasn't landed yet. I could not believe what I saw that day. This missile of a home run he hit. So this was like vintage Corey Erickson.
Yeah.
And I got to see firsthand. It was I was like, wow. And that was like a big league homer. That was cool. The first time I actually saw. Yeah, so definitely Corey Erickson.
That's awesome. We're gonna have Corey Erickson on as a guest here sometime soon.
Oh, great. Yeah, I love Corey. Ryan O'Malley, just that one home run. I love remembering that home run.
Yeah.
But I never really got to see O'Malley play much otherwise.
Yeah.
Only against the Astros that one game.
Yeah, that was so magical.
Yeah, I love that. But and then I would say another guy I competed against that I really enjoyed playing against, probably Josh Komnick was another dude.
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Really liked him. And probably some Griffin guys. I liked Mike Pilger. He was awesome.
Yeah. Stud.
Yeah, I totally idolized him. Yeah. I love Sabota and Schneller. Love playing against those guys. Yeah, I love playing against Eric Easley with Southeast.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good name.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Cool.
I always talk shit to him. Like I always tell him how I struck his ass out all the time, but I really didn't. I don't think he ever actually struck out against me.
I need to call him back because he talked about coming on and being like a sponsor and throwing some money.
Cool.
That's a good reminder. I need to call you back.
He's a great dude. I played with him on the Flame.
Yep.
Then I played against him against Southeast, and we've been friends for a long time. And
he's a successful realtor here in town.
Yeah. Love Eric. Just Mark Nunn, Matt Nunn. Love those guys.
The Nunn brothers, absolute studs. Yeah.
Love playing against those guys. I remember played against who's the dude, the catcher with Springfield High. I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Scott Jarvis.
Loved him. Yep, good guy. Yep. Brooke Trees, Pat Trees. I like those guys.
Yeah. Yep. Pat Trees is my fellow firefighter now.
Oh, cool. Tell him hello. Yeah.
Will do. Great guy. Yeah.
I love all those Springfield guys. It was so much fun. I idolized all of them, but I also like striking them out and competing against them. And
What are you most proud of in your career accomplishing?
Most proud accomplishment is striking out Jason Giambi, being the little engine that could kind of story, Yep, I'm a nobody, but I've accomplished amazing things, and against some of the most remarkable athletes. And I just love that whole story. I love telling it to people. It's, when you meet someone new and you tell them that they played that you played pro baseball, a lot of folks say, "Oh, did you play AAA?" or something like that. Like their immediate question is, "Oh, AAA?" or something like that. Someone that doesn't know all the ins and outs of minor league baseball and that kind of thing. But I do take a lot of pride and gratitude in saying I did play pro ball.
Absolutely.
Just because I like to see the look on people's faces, because I know I don't look like much.
Right. Isn't that awesome?
And then if they really wanted to know, or if I had time and they, the conversation went that direction, I would love to tell them my story about overcoming this and that, and it be funny.
You had a very unique journey, no doubt.
Yep.
Did you have any unique rituals, or do you remember any teammates that had any unique rituals or superstitions or anything like that?
Yeah, my ritual was one of my baseball socks would always be inside out.
Really?
So I'd always do that. Yep. And it was, I had like the solid color one, so it didn't really matter.
Right.
But I'd always put one inside out. I'd always double knot my shoes. I'd always wear 2 pairs of socks. I always had a certain stretch. I always put my uniform on a certain way. I don't know. I was very superstitious in my routine. I always had to walk a certain way, or like do this exercise or that exercise a certain way. And I don't know, just very ritualistic in that regard.
Yeah.
But not to the point where it was very noticeable.
Okay.
I would never like write something on the mound or anything, but I would think about like Josh Bruner.
Yeah.
Or I would think about, home, or that kind of thing that would put, light my shoes on fire kind of thing,
Yeah. All right. I've got a goofy question for you, and it's based off of, I can cut this out if you don't want to talk about it, but Worth said something funny about you getting beer from the Blackburn's garage. And I know the Blackburn family.
Yeah.
They were, and the Jurgen family. I hope this was funny.
I love them. Yeah. I love the Blackburns. Yep. I was
Chad Blackburn, great guy. Yeah. Tom.
Yeah. So my buddy lived down the street from the Blackburns. We all lived in the same neighborhood. This buddy of mine, Tim Price, he lived across from Worth, actually. And there was like an empty lot next to his house. We would like camp out in the empty lot, like in a tent once in a while, just being stupid, just, and having a bonfire and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a freshman. I just finished my freshman year in high school. We're going into the summer, and every once in a while we'd go to a party or whatever, and a high school party, and there'd be people drinking beer, and I'd want to partake in having a beer once in a while, but I knew that was not a good idea, especially if you're playing sports.
Sure.
Well, I had this bright idea. Every time we'd go over and play basketball at Chad Blackburn's house, I noticed that his garage was open, and Tom had a fridge full of beer.
Yeah.
And so one night I got this crazy idea. I was spending the night over at Tim's house, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get some beer over at the Blackburn's garage, and this is like 2 a.m. Yeah. So I walk down the street in the middle of the night, and I jump. His garage door was unlocked, so I walked right in there. His fridge is right there, and I put like a bunch of cans of beers in my shirt. And I basically like walked down the street with these beers in my shirt and drank. And I ended up drinking by myself because my buddy like went to bed and wasn't really, at first it was a funny idea, but then when I was actually doing it, he probably kind of, didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I drank a few beers, and I didn't feel too good the next day. And then
great.
so then I'm at one of the football games like later on that fall, and Tom comes up to me and he goes, "Hey Jay, good to see you. Hey, I heard that someone's been stealing beers out of my garage
Oh no.
from the neighborhood, and I want to know if it was you or if you knew who did it. And I said, I really don't know who it was. But if I find out, I'll let you know. And he goes, well, if you find out, let me know. And if you ever need beer, just let me know. I'll let you have some.
That's
I'm like,
great.
oh, okay, great. So I am so stupid. So the next weekend, I'm like, you know what? I really want some beer, I think. And this is so dumb of me because I'm only a sophomore in high school. I'm like, maybe if I ask Tom, he'll really get us some beer. So I knocked on his door one day and I go, hey, Tom, I just want to let you know I was the one that stole the beer. But I was wondering if you would want to get us, if we could have some beer. And he freaked out on me and said, I'm going to tell Mr. Moomy what's going on with you and all this stuff. And he scared the living crap out of me. And then he ended up not telling anyone, not telling Coach.
He didn't get your beer then.
Totally playing with me. And
did.
no, I did not get beer. Just unbelievable.
I cannot wait to send this to Chad. I still text with Chad sometimes. I know he's like he does a lot of refereeing and umpiring locally here. Great guy. Yeah. I think him and Griff are still like best buddies. So
yeah, we had a great time growing up, hanging out with them.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I was hoping you would.
Oh yeah.
What do you miss most about the game?
I just miss as just competing and going out there and trying to strike someone out, trying to get out, showing off my delivery. I love everything about the game, like just being out there. I remember, one of the first memories I have of going out there and pitching in a game at the beginning of the season was I was trying not to smile.
Yeah.
The first step that I had out there at the beginning of the new season, I'm standing on the rubber. I'm 10 years old. I have the ball in my hand. I'm starting to do my warm-up tosses, and I just can't stop smiling. I was so in my element. I was in my place. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And then I would look down and try and compose myself because I knew I looked stupid smiling. And I would look back up, and all of a sudden I'd start smiling again. So for a few years as a kid, at the very beginning of the season, when I got to first go onto the pitcher's mound and start my warm-ups, I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Smiling so much that I couldn't help it, and I had to force myself to stop.
That's pretty sweet. I love that, man. Yeah. Oh, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Face one batter with your best stuff all time. Who would it be?
It's Giambi.
You already faced him.
Oh, you mean if I could face a batter?
You could face Mickey Mantle if you wanted to.
Yeah. So earlier this year, Reed Detmers was pitching against the Astros, and it happened to be on national TV.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an 0-2 count, and he threw a fastball, and Jose Altuve got a base hit. It was kind of a pitch that he obviously didn't pitch it where he wanted it, and it was too much of a strike on an 0-2 count.
Yeah.
Especially against Altuve, and Altuve ended up getting a base hit on it. And I texted Chris later that night. I said, Chris, so glad to see your kid pitching tonight on national TV, but I'm sorry I hated that 0-2 pitch to Altuve. And Chris replied, yeah, I know that sucked or something. And I go, I would have thrown a 79-mile-per-hour fastball right in his kitchen. And he just died laughing. Yep.
What?
Yeah.
What's the best baseball book you've ever read?
Have Glove Will Travel by Bill Lee.
Oh, the Spaceman?
The Spaceman.
I need to check that out.
So
I'm a huge reader. I've
I
not
love
come across that one.
I love baseball books. I've read a lot,
Me too.
but this one was by far the funniest I've ever read.
I'm gonna pick it up.
It was the best. I loved it. I also read Bullpen Gospels by
Cool.
Hayhurst.
Okay.
Dirk Hayhurst, a reliever with the Blue Jays from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
He wrote a really good book about being in the minor leagues and being in the bullpen.
Okay.
You know, being a reliever in the minor leagues and being a reliever in the major leagues that has got to be a noteworthy life to live.
Yeah.
Because all those times that you spend in the bullpen with your pitching teammates and those catchers, you just have the best time ever, killing time during all those games you're watching and waiting for your turn to pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well
There
said.
there could be many books written, I'm sure, from a lot of folks that spent time in a bullpen.
Do you still see yourself ever writing some sort of a baseball book that you've talked about?
Yes. I already have something started. I just, it's
Yeah.
always a matter of,
Yeah.
sitting down and doing
Yeah.
it more, or just simply writing notes.
I hope this
Yeah.
can be some sort of a resource to you, like down the road. Like, and this can
Yeah.
has at least like kicked up some thoughts and whatnot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And running through these. I mean, this is like my vision for this was like more than a podcast, like
Mhm.
kind of in between like podcast and biography on people, and trying to get kind of like a balance of that.
Yeah.
You still with me?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I love the podcast. It's a great. It's an easier way to get all these stories out.
Yeah.
Than sitting down and writing it. But I also think the writing the book, the element of that is huge for people
Oh,
too.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
worthy as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just very time consuming, and how
Yeah.
that goes.
Damn truth. What's a dumb tradition in baseball?
Dumb tradition. Well, I don't. Well, some of the new rules I don't really like.
Like what?
Well, I don't like the pickoff plays where you can only do two of them.
Okay.
Now, at the same time, I really like how they're shortening the game
Mhm.
because it's just gotten too long. I mean, as big as a baseball fan as I am, I still have a hard time sitting there and watching a game on TV.
It's a long process. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it, but no one in my family can do it.
Yeah.
Unless it's like Game 7 of the World Series.
Right.
And even I have a hard time sitting there watching this, timeout call, pitching visit. I do like that they're shortening the game, so that's helped a lot.
Yeah.
Some of the rules that they've done, though, I don't like at all, like the 3-inning or the 3-batter minimum for a reliever, and the only two pickoff throws.
Yeah.
Because to me, when you see all the stolen bases now in the game, it's kind of an asterisk because of the limited pickoff attempts you can do.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an actual correlation to it, but you've seen that there's a ton more stolen bases now.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, so it's not happening like organically, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And that takes away from Ricky Henderson and Lou Brock and all those guys that had to steal bases without those kinds of rules.
I am happy to see that stolen bases are becoming part of the game again, because they were really becoming extinct, because all the analytics.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good, and see, there is good and bad to all these rule changes.
Yeah, right.
I really don't like the second base runner in the when it's extra innings.
Yeah, starting there.
I don't like the ghost runner kind of thing or whatever. That's really annoying to me. And then the traditional like unwritten rules, some of those are kind of annoying, where you can't like celebrate a home run, or you can't like pump your fist when you strike out a guy. I like the emotion in the game. There needs to be more emotion. But there's obviously too much of the old way clashing with the new way, and it causes fights.
That's great.
Yeah.
That leads into my next question.
Well, I mean, like if you give up a home run and the guy celebrates, get him out next time instead of throwing at him.
That's my next question. Pimping home runs, yay or nay?
Yay.
Celebrating strikeouts, yay or nay? I mean,
yay.
That's yay. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I feel that same way.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got some questions now. This is kind of the end of them that are from my good buddy Joey Albesmeyer. He's my teammate at Lincoln Land. He helps me out a ton with these. His are a little more thoughtful than some of mine. And you've already answered some of these, so I've crossed off a few of these before. But state championships are a huge deal in small towns. Where does winning that state championship rank in your career of accomplishments?
State championship is right there in the top 3 or 4 moments of my entire career.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was the first one in my school's history is the best. I mean,
like you really kind of kicked it off for like the dominance of Chatham. Like you were a part of that era.
Yeah, we were the first. Yeah, we were the first team to actually accomplish something. But we may not have been the best team at that time. We may not have even been the best team that Glenwood ever had. It might have been the 92 team that lost to Rantoul to get to the state tournament.
Yeah.
With Brian McClure and my brother on that team.
Right.
That a lot of people might say that was the best team ever. And they say they came so close, but we were the ones that actually get over the hump and not only get there but actually win it all. And how we did it and who was involved was great because my ties with previous Glenwood teams and then my relationship with Adam and being the one to, that was just, I don't think anything can beat that of all the state titles.
I love it. There's it's gonna be our last question, our last big one. And you've kind of answered it, but I don't care if you want to answer any elaborate a little more. So he said, one thing that's becoming clear in these success stories is there's a key coach or parent that drives the development or opportunities. I think you know where I'm going. How important were the worst in the Chatham community for shaping your development as a ball player?
Everything, because it was my dad, it was my brother, it was all these good ball players coming through Chatham. It was these parents, Doug Ferguson, Kit Provines, McClures, Aaron Sapp, all these players my brother played with, and all the players in the Springfield area, the interest and the level of competition, Fairview, Sandy Koufax, all that. Pretty amazing, pretty special group of people. All they wanted to do was get better at baseball and make Chatham, I don't know, just we just had parents that cared and wanted their kids to play on a good baseball team, and then it just kind of blew up from there. And then you had Moomy, starting up and coaching and doing something with his teams in the late 80s. And then all of a sudden you have McClure come through, and it was just a snowball after snowball, it grew and grew and grew, and it's just never stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the minute, when my dad and I lose track of everything, and then we kind of try and catch back up after a few years, and we see all that's happened with Glenwood, it's just amazing. It just never has stopped. Like with Casey Erickson.
Stopped. Yeah. And you guys kind of started that.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob Erickson came through and helped out a lot in Chatham. And my brother worked with Bob Erickson on, on the fields for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was part of it. And then Casey came through, after Corey, and
yeah. Dude,
just,
my wife and I are talking about moving to Chatham because my son Bodie, I have thoughts for him. I don't know what he's going to end up being, but I'd like to give him an opportunity to be a ball player, and that's the only place I could see him being. I want him to play for Casey, and like it's all kind of built on those legacies of like you guys started it, and then other people were like, oh, Chatham's amazing at baseball. We're moving out there to give our kid the best opportunity to be a baseball player or let his career, take it as far as it can. So thank you for doing what you did and setting the tone, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. And you know what? I was blessed, and I knew what I had in front of me, and I just took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
And it was special then, and it's special now. And I'm just so really thankful that you had me on here, dude.
It's been amazing. It was perfect. Kim Worth told me to. Adam Feld told me to. It was meant to be. This was such a ride, dude. What an awesome journey. What a unique journey you had. Just your insights have been so cool and unique and different. And I loved how you took advantage of every opportunity that was put in front of you. And man, we spent dang near 8 hours talking, buddy. So now me and Spitty Spat are buddies. We're brothers for life. We're brothers for life now. So be expecting text from me. Text me anytime, man. I hope we can keep in touch.
And Kim wanted me to share that Hall of Fame speech that I was going to say during the Springfield Thunder.
Why don't you take us out with that?
Well, I don't have it because it's on an old phone.
Okay.
But I will say that it was damn funny, and it was just basically making fun of all my teammates, saying that while I was not the cool kid, I was more badass than you guys because I was working out with an Olympian and you guys weren't. And by the way, I could strike your asses out or something like that. It was a really badass speech that I didn't get a chance to read, but I did read it to Kim that night on the phone.
Yeah.
With Dennis, and I just I'm thankful and just proud of my whole baseball life. Yeah, it's been amazing, dude.
So let's let your dad take us out. He's got a clip talking about how proud he is of you guys. So I'm going to play that and we're going to get off. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that is out there listening, that's supporting. More and more money keeps coming in, which I keep putting back into the baseball community, giving back to the game that gave me, that gave you, all of us so much. So
that means a lot, Blake. Thanks so much. That's awesome,
brother.
Dude.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone out there listening. More to come. We got Casey Erickson coming up next. And then what's cool after that is I'm branching out. So I'm still going to do local guys. I still got Justin Knadler and Dennis and Casey, but now I've got Bo Hart lined up. You remember him from the Cardinals?
Yeah. Oh my God, Bo. Yeah. Cool.
Bo Hart's coming on. He had a magical stint. I've got Ben Johnson coming on, the Cardinals AAA manager. So we're starting to grow, and I don't know where this thing's going, but I'm here for it. So
well, I'm glad to be a part of it, dude. That is so cool. I like bragging to some friends here, about it and stuff. So that means everything, dude. Thanks.
Yeah, and absolutely, I hope your family likes this. I know that your boys can always listen to this. Your wife can always listen to this. Your grandkids someday can listen to this. So all right, y'all. Grandpa's taking us out. Thank you for listening. This was amazing. You ready, bud?
Blake. Take care.
Yeah, buddy. I couldn't be prouder. Both of them. They're just gentlemen, smart. They want to do the right thing. I mean, it's just, I couldn't be prouder. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
I couldn't be prouder.
Yeah.
Both of them. They're just gentlemen, smart. They want to do the right thing. I mean, it's just, I couldn't be prouder.